Chapter 24, Refining 3. A new world appears before my eyes. Though I haven't fully entered that world yet, I sense that once I do, everything will change drastically. The purple thread. Familiarizing myself with the direction this new path points to, I recall the formula of record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Up to now, I memorized the formula but couldn't understand a single word. That's why, even possessing this divine technique, understanding it was impossible. Now, however, the moment I saw the path of purple, somehow, I felt I could understand record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Now I understand why everyone who read record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts called it an absurd martial art. Yes, this is a martial art that could completely overturn the history of martial arts in Yanghua. Its basis might be for escaping and ambushing cultivators. But if used properly, this could be undoubtedly a martial art meant to capture and kill those cultivators. A few cycles back, this was Kim Young-hoon's assessment of record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts after mastering it. Yes, used properly, it's indeed a martial art capable of killing cultivators. The formula of record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts crosses my mind. In the contest of martial arts, if the clashing of colors represents the essence of martial arts, can't we attack the colors themselves? A phrase incomprehensible before stepping into the realm of three flowers gather at the summit. But now I understand. Colors represent intent, spirit, will, etc. Attacking the colors themselves mean attacking the opponent's intent directly, beyond exchanging intent trajectories, attacking the intent themselves, and furthermore, cutting through the opponent's very consciousness, is the essence of record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. One who uses this as a basis can enter a cultivator's blind spots and strike. The divine technique Kim Young-hoon showed, which made him disappear like a phantom, wasn't his agility but the record that quickly sliced through my consciousness, making it impossible for me to perceive him momentarily. Shook. My sword dives into the flow of the Crown Prince's consciousness. Every human consciousness has its fibers. Aiming for the gaps in the fibers through the purple thread, I concentrate my intent following the formula of record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts and slice into his consciousness. Pot. The edges of his consciousness split. Though I stand before him, in his eyes, I must appear to have vanished like a phantom. I've entered the cultivator's blind spot. Ordinary martial artists can't perceive intent due to completely being dominated by a cultivator's consciousness domain. Conversely, a cultivator can detect every movement of a martial artist who enters their realm of consciousness. But record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts allows one to penetrate the cultivator's blind spot, rendering even cultivators unable to track a martial artist's actions. A martial art that momentarily equalizes martial artists with cultivators. This is a martial art created by mortals to transcend the cultivators. Quickly slicing through the fibers of the Crown Prince's consciousness, I approach him closely and raise my sword. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Transcending peaks. Pot. My sword, covered in sword silk, precisely targets the Crown Prince's neck. Then, the sound of clashing metal resounds. Kang. A translucent defensive spell suddenly covers him. Huck. What trick did you play? Surprised by my sudden disappearance and close-range attack, he forms a spell seal. Quang. Energy rides, changing the flow of the surrounding air. Pirum. I'm thrown backwards by a strong recoil, and a small whirlwind starts rising around the Crown Prince. Fun tricks, but I'll show you they won't work on a true cultivator. Pyong. Several wind blades shoot out from the whirlwind covering him. I hastily retreat, dodging outside the Crown Prince's domain of consciousness. From outside his realm, the flow of intent becomes clear. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Strange stone. Boom, boom, boom. In a defensive and offensive stance, I deflect all incoming wind blades and prepare to re-enter his domain. However, as the Crown Prince forms another spell seal, a wind bullet, as big as my upper body, shoots towards me from the whirlwind. I need to dodge. Frowning, I deploy my agility technique and escape among the houses within the Mockley clan's territory. Quang, quang, quang. The wind bullet collapses several straw houses, and corpses and streams of blood from mortals spill out. I need to approach the whirlwind. Observing the Crown Prince's whirlwind, I click my tongue. Every strand of that wind is a wind blade. If I approach, I'll be shredded. Even if I manage to approach by cutting through his consciousness, if I can't penetrate the whirlwind, I can't deliver a strike. No, hold on. Even if I penetrate the whirlwind, the Crown Prince's defensive spell remains. My sword silk isn't enough to penetrate his spell. How can I break through all of it? Quang, quang, quang. I dodge through the alleys of the village, using the houses of cultivators as a shield against the Crown Prince's attacks. Dodging isn't a problem. as long as I keep observing the flow of his intent from outside his domain. However, fundamentally, the internal energy of a martial artist is more impure compared to a cultivator's spiritual power, so no matter how much internal energy a martial artist has, they will tire much quicker than a cultivator. I can't drag this out. I need to finish this quickly. And to do that, right now, I must ascend to 3 flowers gather at the summit. I must seize this clue and ascend now. With the resolve to die? Tired. Climbing onto the roof of a house with my transcending peak step, I thrust my sword at the wind bullets the crown prince shoots. Boom. Quong. Cutting upwards with ascending vein, the wind bullets split in half and fly off in different directions. Jing, jing, jing. My hand is trembling. Indeed, the power contained in the wind bullets were formidable. The hand holding my sword ached unbearably. I'll keep receiving those attacks. I gave up on dodging and continued to thrust my sword at his wind bullets and wind blades. The intent of the wind bullets and wind blades is directed at me. I observe the attacks coming from both sides and prepare my stance. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Landscape painting. Diagonal slashes extend left and right, cutting through the approaching wind blades and wind bullets. But beyond, even more endless wind blades rush in. They don't stop. I keep wielding my sword and perform sword moves. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Joy of mountains and peaks. Flowing ridge. Strange stone. Bouldered cliff. Amidst continuous rotation. Piercing and slicing the wind bullets. I attack and block in a defensive and offensive stance. While doing so, I begin to approach step by step again. Shook. I cautiously advance, inching forward with measured steps. Shoulder, waist, cheek, thigh. The flesh touched by the wind blades turn to tatters. Dare to come at me. Die. The crown prince forms a spell seal, and the whirlwind rides, as numerous wind blades begin to merge. Soon, they form the shape of a giant bird. A deep red consciousness aims at me. A terrifying killing intent pierces the entire space I stand in. I can't block it. I can't dodge it. The moment it flies at me, I'll die? I instinctively know. But for some reason, I'm not worried. I just aimlessly follow the faint purple thread between the red. What does purple mean? Blue is the thread of self-protection. Thus, it extends from me. Red is the thread of killing intent. Thus, it extends from the enemy. Then what is purple? Purple is. Suddenly, I feel as if the red and blue threads are mingling, somewhat forming a tai chi. Though blue is weaker compared to red, it mixes with red. And between red and blue, a purple thread opens a path. Purple is the color born from the mix of blue and red. Hostility and self-will. The will to protect oneself and the will to kill. Why can these two intents mix? Suddenly, looking at the stance I've taken, I'm amazed. Facing this fearsome attack, I've adopted the severing mountain swordsmanship's first move, transcending peaks. Do I no longer want to live? No, that's not it. I've always wanted to live. Then, the current stance also means my will to live has guided me towards it. All right. This isn't just a simple transcending peaks. Transcending peaks marks both the beginning and end of the severing mountain swordsmanship. Therefore, it can also be the initial form of the ultimate technique, severing mountain. Keek. The giant bird flies towards me. I initiate the 22nd form of severing mountain swordsmanship, severing mountain. Transcending peaks. Entering mountain. Ascending vein. Flowing ridge. Bouldered cliff. Strange stone. Deep mountain. Secluded valley. Landscape painting. Dragon vein. Cliff edge. 12 lights, emerging peak. I slash horizontally, then vertically again holding the sword high and piercing crookedly. Then I rotate in a defensive and offensive stance, adjusting and charging forward with an upward slash. I twist and neutralize the opponent's power, slashing diagonally several times. In an instant, I intensify the sword's silk with a rapid vertical slash, then change the speed, slashing upwards and firing 12 streams of sword silk. All of this happens in a flash. I frantically wield the severing mountain swordsmanship, relentlessly pursuing the purple thread. The power of the giant bird intensifies. The wind blades emitting from its body leave scars and cuts all over my body. My vision blurs, perhaps due to too much blood loss. A little more, just a little more. Keep moving the sword. Get even one step closer to that color. Even if I die the next moment. If I lack talent. Joy of mountains and peaks. Chi mountain, heart heaven. Layered mountain. Mountain tiger. Mountain and valley transformation. Echoing valley. I must go crazy. It's okay to die now. So please, show me the way. In that moment, I see a massive red intent aiming at me and think, maybe in the contest of martial arts, there is no me or others. Until now, I've always thought others' intents were invariably red. But if I change my perspective, from the other's point of view, their intent is blue, and mine is red. I used to think the world of peak martial artists only consisted of others' intents and mine. But maybe that's a mistaken thought. Others' intent, and my intent, It's just a matter of perspective, and maybe they're all the same color. I close and then open my eyes. Changing perspectives, my intent appears red and the giant bird's intent blue. When I blink again, the colors return to normal, but I understand. If intent is essentially the same, what remains is only my martial arts. The boundaries between my color and the Crown Prince's colors start to fade. Red and blue melt into each other, and before me, the world seems to be drenched in purple. My body is turning into tatters in real time, but concurrently, I enter a strange state of ecstasy. Martial arts are never complete on their own. Martial arts need a partner to dance with. Ah, I see. I finally understand the realm of three flowers gather at the summit. A realm of connection. A realm where the boundary between the opponent's intent and mine disappears, allowing me to read their intent more directly and meticulously. By understanding the opponent's intent, I can ensure that all my movements and techniques are flawless. I mirror all my techniques in the Crown Prince's intent, fully understanding how much energy I've wasted, how many unnecessary movements I made while executing sword moves. I take a deep breath. I gather all the internal energy I've carelessly scattered while executing my sword moves. The Shadow Guards, paralyzed by paralyzing powder, watched the duel between Seo Eunhyun and the Crown Prince from the ground. A seasoned veteran with overwhelming practical experience despite his young age. That was the assessment of Seo Eunhyun when he joined the Shadow Guard. Such an experienced master had been refining his skills for decades. But everyone in the Shadow Guards thought he couldn't beat the Crown Prince. Because he was a cultivator, a being of a different class from martial artists. Indeed, Seo Eunhyun was becoming tattered in real time while fighting the Crown Prince. He was spewing blood, covered in wounds and holes torn in his body. Yet, he did not give up and steadily moved forward, step by step. Everyone knew. This desperate struggle was futile. Suddenly, the Shadow Guards were astounded. Seo Eunhyun began to execute his swordsmanship. It looked more like a sword dance. A series of movements, clean without any superfluity. But what astounded them was what happened next. Seo Eunhyun's intent became increasingly refined to the point where even the mid-pinnacle guards failed to grasp in understanding. His intent, which had spread out around him, suddenly converged into 3 points. Th3. Above his head, 3 flowers bloomed. 3 flowers. Gather at the summit. The 3 flowers that momentarily lingered above his head were soon sucked into his nose and mouth. Up. All the wasted energy returns at once. The internal energy spent while executing the Severing Mountain swordsmanship is instantly replenished. I felt like I understood why Leader said that Echoing Valley was linked to 3 flowers gather at the summit. A technique that receives and counters the opponent's power. In a sense, it was a practice of exchanging intents with the opponent, ultimately leading to connection. Thank you, Hyungnim. I express my deep gratitude to Kim Young-hoon from my past life, and continue to swing my sword. There is no you or me. Only martial arts itself exists here. I felt like I understood why 3 flowers gather at the summit. Masters spoke to enter a state of no mind. Not a metaphysical answer, but advice to reach a state where neither your intent nor the others exists. Mountain echoes, valley respond. 9 mountains, 8 seas. In a state of no mind, I unleash my sword. In executing sword moves, not even a single bit of wasted movement exists. In the realm of purple, beyond blue and red, I continue to infuse my sword with intent. If there is no you or me in martial arts, then there is neither your intent or mine. The sword silk becomes one with the sword, infusing it with energy. If sword silk is the realization of sword intent, then next, sword intent should connect with the intent flowing through the world. The sword silk evolves. The faint aura surrounding the sword thickens and starts to emit a radiance. It looked as if the sword was adorned with starlight. Sword gang. Why I couldn't sustain the sword gang for more than a second with my strength alone, even when pouring all my internal energy into it, became clear in the realm of 3 flowers. Because martial arts aren't just about using one's own strength, the opponent's intent, and the intent of the world must connect to truly complete martial arts. Severing Mountain swordsmanship. Heavenly Lake. I become like a clear lake, sweeping through the flow of the giant bird with my sword. Though it was a spell body without meridians and channels, I felt like I could understand the giant bird structure. The flow of intent inside the giant bird was clear to see. The power of the giant bird was sucked into my sword in an instant, and I executed the ultimate technique of the Severing Mountain swordsmanship while sheathing my sword. Severing Mountain swordsmanship. Ultimate move. Severing Mountain. Chalk. Unsheathing the sword again, I unleash it towards the giant bird. My sword was clearly adorned with bright sword gang. Chung. The sword gang shatters the giant bird. I catch my breath. I look at the Crown Prince, grinding his teeth within the whirlwind, with clear eyes. You. Don't be happy just because you broke one spell. Take this. Numerous wind blades merge, transforming into a giant dragon this time. But I no longer felt that these would kill me. Tut! I charge at him with the transcending peak step. Kung! The wind dragon roars and flies towards me. In the midst of executing the foot technique, I realized something more. Mountain Lord martial arts and transcending peak step were one technique all along. Until now, I didn't realize it due to my lack of talent. It was only after reaching the state of 3 flowers that I finally understood. The intention Kim Young-hoon had left in this foot technique when he created it. Mountain Lord transcends great peaks. And then it soars. Mountain Lord's soaring flight. I leaped up, avoiding the wind dragon, and entered the Crown Prince's domain. Be nervous, Your Highness. Now, there were no more constraints in executing the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. The moment I entered his domain, I felt the flow of his consciousness sweeping over my entire body. Using secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, I sharply honed my intent and cut through his consciousness directly. Just moments ago, I was cutting unconsciously in ecstasy, but now I was fully aware and executing in single form. Resorting to tricks again. But do you really think you can penetrate this whirlwind? The whirlwind surrounding the Crown Prince. It was the culmination of a spell made of thousands, even tens of thousands of wind blades. Yet, I feel a newfound confidence. I can cut through it. The weakest point of the spell, the spot where the rotation of the wind blades was weakest. I shot towards that spot. Kang! Dozens, hundreds of wind blades seemed to shoot towards me, but I did not flinch, sensing their intent. I felt it. Kang Kong Kong. Landscape painting. Dozens of slashes extended in all directions, shedding the wind blades, and I successfully penetrated the inside of the whirlwind. Inside, the Crown Prince's consciousness was denser and harder to cut. No matter. At this distance, my sword can reach him. I infused my sword with Sword Gang. Pot! A bright white light burst from my sword, shocking the Crown Prince who just noticed me. Before, I couldn't pierce the defensive spell with Sword Silk. But Sword Gang would be different. Quong! My single sword stroke shattered the Crown Prince's defensive spell like glass. Kruok! Chok! My sword tore a part of his neck. Pot! The Crown Prince hurriedly executed a wind spell to dodge my sword. For the first time, fear seemed to surface in his eyes. Heek! Don't come. Stay away. Pot! I lunged at him with the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, cutting through his consciousness again. As I disappeared from his sight, his complexion turned deathly pale. Go away. Get away from me. Qua. A gust of wind howled. He blindly scattered wind in all directions due to not seeing me, but I quickly sliced through the wind and approached him again. Chok! Using Sword Gang, I aimed at him once more. The Crown Prince screamed and used another spell, narrowly surviving once more. Die? Just die. Pot! As he chanted a spell, forming another incantation. Once again, spells in the forms of giant bird, wind dragon, phoenix, and Qilin burst forth. Now fully grounded in 3 flowers gather at the summit and using record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, they were useless against me. Shook! I rushed towards the giant bird with deep mountain, slicing it, then pierced the wind dragon with flowing ridge. Dodging other spells with Mountain Lord's soaring flight, I chase after the prince. Once again, he uses powerful spells to escape from me. The situation had reversed. Hook! Hurk! The Crown Prince miserably ran away, continuously forming incantations. Compared to me, who uses my internal energy without any waste, the Crown Prince, who had kept casting large-scale spells that never hit, now turned pale. Just die? Please, just die? Whoop. With the next strike, I'll end it. I took the stance of Chi Mountain, Heart Heaven, and took a breath. KRK. While fleeing, the Crown Prince suddenly changes direction, leaping with a spell. Chi Mountain, Heart Heaven. Shook. My Sword Gang extends and aims at his legs, severing them. Croc. Damn it. A mere martial artist. Why a martial artist? In agony from his severed legs, he grits his teeth at me. Do you think what you're doing is right? Do you think the Gene clan you're with is any different? I silently raise my sword towards him. That's right. You received the blessing pill from Father years ago. The blessing pill is made of the same material as the revival pill. And you know what the Chi building pill is, the one that Chi refining cultivators eat to ascend to Chi building right. I raise my sword towards the babbling prince. The Chi building pill is made using 100 years of human vital energy and essence as one of its ingredients. Do you think there's a Chi building cultivator who ascended without eating a Chi building pill? Over 99% of Chi building cultivators ascend by consuming Chi building pills. The Gene clan you follow is no different in the end. They all consume human lives. Since you've eaten the blessing pill, you're no different. PUK. I kicked the Crown Prince in the chest. He coughed up blood, struggling to breathe. But I, too, had to gasp for air. I had lost too much blood. There were places where flesh had been completely torn away, and I was losing sensation in my thigh. I glanced down at the crown prince coughing on the ground, then took out a silk box from my pocket. I looked at the blessing pill inside. A lustrous pill with a hint of red. A legendary elixir said to extend a person's life by 10 years. Today, I realized the true nature of the red hue in the blessing pill. Tuck. Crunch. I throw the filthy pill beside the crown prince and crush it under my foot. Don't worry. I have no intention of ever consuming such filthy pills made by you cultivators. Flames roared and raged. The Mockley clan's base was now engulfed in flames by the fire spells of the Jin clan cultivators. Above, a battle was raging among Chi-building cultivators. Kim Young-hoon was also engaged in that battle. I need to hurry and help. Would I have been able to move a bit more if I had taken the blessing pill? But I have no regrets. I don't want to touch a filthy pill made at the expense of human lives. Slum. I raised my sword. Farewell. I struck down at the crown prince. Shook. What's happening? Why is my body upside down? I suddenly realized that my neck felt empty. Ah, I see. My head has been cut off. It was due to a wind blade that suddenly shot from the necklace the crown prince was wearing. A wind blade I couldn't possibly block or dodge. I need to cut. Finally reaching that realm. To be a little more helpful. Is this how I die? No, it's not. Even if I die like this. Let me be of some help. Despite achieving the realm I longed for. To die without doing anything? I'll cut. I'll cut. Even if I die, I'll keep cutting. Hook. Mockley Hyun, the crown prince of Yinghua, gasped for breath upon witnessing the decapitated body of Seo Eun-hyun. I survived. The life-saving magical instrument given to the crown prince of Yinghua. A one-time used magical instrument capable of delivering a blow equivalent to a chi-building cultivator was activated. Ha ha ha. He laughed maniacally. I won. I beat this mortal. You can never challenge the authority of cultivators, huh? Huh? Kook. Kook. He coughed up blood. He had used too many powerful spells excessively. His spiritual power was depleted, and he couldn't move his legs. I need to recover my spiritual power with spirit stones. He looked up at the sky. Among the martial artists who came with Seo Eun-hyun, there was a monster who was confronting Chi-building level elders head-on. I shouldn't have come to gain merit. I need to escape before it's too late. Then it happened. Wriggle. Seo Eun-hyun's decapitated body began to move. What? Mockley Hyun dumbfoundedly watched the body. A body without a head, now adopting a stance. What's going on? No. Without any spiritual power controlling its movements, it wasn't a Jiangshi. Why is he moving? He tried to stand and flee, but his legs wouldn't move. Then, Seo Eun-hyun's intent captured his consciousness. This is obsession. An overwhelming obsession to cut down the opponent in front of him, no matter what, was raging within Seo Eun-hyun's body. Nonsense. How can a mere mortal have such obsession? Seo Eun-hyun's corpse took on a sword stance. Though his corpse could not gather energy into the sword, Mockley Hyun was now powerless, unable to move, and had even used up his one-time life-saving magical device. The sword began to move. This is nonsense. How can a mere mortal possess such tenacity? How can such a thing be possible? Why won't you give up even in death? It was Seo Eun-hyun's body. The body he honed in martial arts all his life. The hands that held the sword so tightly through decades of arduous training. His lifelong dedication to refining his martial arts, even in death, moved his body on its own, performing its destined task. Why won't you give up? Why resist, even in death? Swoosh. Seo Eun-hyun's sword cleanly sliced off the upper part of Mockley Hyun's mouth. His mouth remained agape in disbelief until his death, and his eyes were filled with incredulity and fear until the end. Seo Eun-hyun's head, even severed, bore a faint smile. Thus ended the life of a man who had relentlessly refined himself. This was Seo Eun-hyun's fifth return. Translator notes, headless Eun-hyun ice guys into another world as a Durahan. The end. Anyway, the fourth cycle is now over. What did y'all think of it? I feel Seo Eun-hyun's character and determination is deepening every cycle. In the third cycle, Seo Eun-hyun engraved the concept that the untalented must go mad in order to advance. In this cycle, Seo Eun-hyun engraved the concept that if he can gain enlightenment in the morning, he is fine with death in the evening. Meaning, Seo Eun-hyun must train and pursue martial arts with death as a consequence. What will he engrave in the next? The next cycle is one of my favorites. It might be a tad bit slow in the middle, but trust me, it'll be worth it in the end. Chapter 25, Fifth Cycle's First Day. As I opened my eyes, a familiar scent filled the air. It was the forest ascension path. I've returned again. First, I swiftly pressed the sleep acupoint on John Myung-hoon, who was trying to say something to me, making him fall deeply asleep at an invisible speed. I'm not sure if I succeeded in cutting down the crown prince. It seemed like my body had moved, but I wasn't certain. Did I manage to be of any help? I hadn't known cultivators had such things. Naturally, thinking I had reached a new realm, I was too complacent. Just as martial artists often hide 30% of their true power and keep life-saving herbs a secret, it would make sense for cultivators to have something similar. Given he didn't use it until the very end, it seemed more like an external object rather than his own power. Probably a type of magical device. Next time, when confronting a cultivator, I'll need to check for such life-saving devices first. I gathered my thoughts, feeling the vitality coursing through my young body. The regression was evident. In my last life, I reached 3 flowers gather at the summit. It was an achievement I had always dreamed of. It was also the goal I desperately wanted to achieve in my previous life. But I died too soon. In all my past lives, I had died according to my natural lifespan, living for about 50 years each time, steadily achieving and advancing. However, in the 4th cycle, I died before my time for the first time. It's a pity. Had I lived a few decades more and further refined my enlightenment, I might have even reached 5 energies converging to the origin. It's over. No use dwelling on it. I sighed softly, shaking my head. It was all in the past now. Being granted another life was a miracle, and I silently expressed gratitude for this new life. Look at this Deputy Manager CO. Section Chief John doesn't wake up no matter how hard we shake him. And where are we now? Kim Young-hoon and Chief Oh Hyun-suk were holding the pale John Myung-hoon and worried. I've studied Oriental medicine before, so let me take his pulse. Really? I'll trust you then. Pretending to take John Myung-hoon's pulse, I pressed his acupoint again to wake him up. Where's this? Before he could fully regain consciousness, I pressed his sleep acupoint, putting him back to sleep. Seeing that he just woke up, it seems he was just sleeping. He must have been accumulating fatigue. That's a relief then. But shouldn't we wake him up? He doesn't even know what's going on. Ignoring the discussion between Kim Young-hoon and Oh Hyun-suk about whether to wake John Myung-hoon, I pointed to a large tree nearby. I'll climb up that tree to see if there's anything around. Without waiting for their response, I approached the tree and executed the martial arts I had realized in my last life. Mountain Lord martial art and transcending peaks steps true form. Mountain Lord's soaring flight. Whoosh. Just like a tiger leaping over a great mountain, I swiftly climbed up the tree branches and came back down. Wow. Deputy Manager CO. That's amazing. When did you learn that? I casually explained that there was nothing around and persuaded everyone to go to the cave. Then, after making a windbreak and preparing a campfire in the cave, I continued to consolidate the realization of 3 flowers gather at the summit, constantly connecting with the opponent. When I first entered 3 flowers, it was only a connection with the opponent I was fighting. However, the more I became accustomed to it, it seemed possible to connect not only with enemies, but also with nearby allies and structures. If this ability is maximized, eventually, I could read the myriad intents flowing through the world, connecting not only with living beings, but also with the world itself. That would probably be the realm of 5 energies converging to the origin. I smiled lightly as I made an educated guess about the realm of 5 energies. I burst into laughter. Ha. Oh Hyun-suk, who was gathering branches for the campfire, looked at me curiously. Why are you laughing? Oh, nothing. Just remembered something funny. I had always thought that reaching the peak of 3 flowers was the ultimate end. But 3 flowers was not the end. Rather, it was just the beginning of the journey towards 5 energies. I guess it's the same with 5 energies converging to the origin. The end is just the start to a new beginning. I am still so weak. However, someday, I will definitely reach there. The beginning to reach the end. Naturally, my goal in this life is 5 energies. Now, only one step is left to become a cultivator. Soon it was night. All my colleagues at the company had fallen asleep. John Myung-hoon, who had been sleeping all day, tried to wake up, but I knocked him out again by hitting the back of his neck. Leaving my colleagues behind, I went outside the cave, dug up yellow bamboo roots, and channeled internal power. Then I chose a suitable branch and carved it into a wooden sword. Woo-woo. When I infused energy and intent into it, a white sword gang formed on the wooden sword. It certainly wasn't the sturdy body I had trained for a lifetime in my past life. However, no longer did my grip ache even when holding a sword. Good, a new life. Right after death, which always strikes at the last moment, the life that follows feels so grateful. I closed my eyes for a moment and contemplated my body. After looking at the sword gang, I sniffed the scent carried by the wind. It's over there. Tut. Using Mountain Lord's soaring flight, I climbed onto a tree and ran towards the direction of the scent, jumping across trees. Shush. Every time I stepped, it seemed like trees passed by me in an instant. This unforgettable scent. In a giant rural area far away. There was a fox. ZZZT. As soon as I visually confirmed the fox's territory, tension swirled throughout my body. The fox's domain was over 30 zhong, 100 m, in radius, centered around the fox. Core formation. Now, I could roughly gauge the level of the opponent by the size of their domain. In my last life, I once glimpsed at the core formation cultivator of the Jin clan, and his domain was about that size. Woo-woo. Maintaining the vision of a peak master, I observed the fox's territory, shimmering in purple. Then, as if the fox sensed something strange, it opened its eyes. Shook. I quickly refined my intent to cut off the fox's perception, erasing my presence. The fox looked around for a while, but, not finding anything unusual, closed its eyes and fell asleep again. It's a good thing I was far outside its domain. If I had been inside the fox's domain, it would have been impossible. Unlike the consciousness of a lower-level practitioner at chi refining, the consciousness of a core formation being was much denser and richer. It was doubtful whether I could even find an intent in that gap to secretly cut. As expected, I can't face the fox with my current level. The difference in level was absurd. Not mentioning killing the fox, but even to escape, I need to reach 5 energies. Before that, it would be presumptuous to even try to penetrate those dense layers of consciousness. First, I need to practice the state of 3 flowers a bit. As I focused on the giant purple area before me, the purple area began to turn red, distinguishing my consciousness from the fox's. In the state of 3 flowers, intent could simply appear purple, but like this, I could also perceive the other's consciousness by dividing into red and blue. After integrating and separating the purple, blue, and red intents for a while, I slowly descended to the ground and took a step towards where the fox was. Shook. With each step, I simultaneously cut through the fox's consciousness again. Another step. One more. Gradually approaching the fox's domain, I continuously sharpened my intent. I can't enter inside of the domain, but it's possible to get as close as I can. How close can I get to the fox? Consciousness seemed to dominate space based on some sort of boundary, but in fact, that boundary was not clear. Even though it looked like there were boundaries when viewed with the vision of a peak master, in reality, a faint consciousness was constantly flowing beyond that. I was approaching the fox by cutting through that faint consciousness. How capable am I? How far can I reach? Where am I now? This was an opportunity to test myself and at the same time, to understand and train in the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Boom, boom. My wooden sword split the air, barely cutting through the faint consciousness of the fox. With each step, sweat dripped from my entire body. With each division of countless consciousnesses, my heart pounded with tension. No, I can do more. I took another step. Only 30 steps left to the fox's domain. When I took another step, cutting through the consciousness. Woo-woo. The fox's consciousness intensified. It had sensed something was off. I quickly cut through the consciousness and stepped into the fox's blind spot. It's far. If I were Kim Young-hoon from my past life, I could have easily passed this distance and entered the fox's domain. But this was my limit. 29 steps to the proper inner area of the consciousness domain. That was my current level. No, it's not. I gritted my teeth. I can go further. With all my concentration, I saw even more consciousnesses. Sweating, I swung my sword again. Whoosh. The consciousness was cut again by the intent on my sword. Is this my limit? Then what am I supposed to do? My original limit was much lower. Far from getting close to the fox, I was always waiting in the cave to be torn apart. I've constantly overcome my limits to reach this point. This time, too, I will overcome my limit. Squeeze out your brain until the brain busts into flames. It's comfortable now that I'm used to the peak state, but when I first reached the peak state, I had to constantly endure my brain burning. It felt like my brain was on fire. More details of the consciousness became visible. I took another step. The distance till the inner area of the fox's domain was gradually closing. 27 steps, 25 steps, 22 steps, 20 steps, 15 steps, and 10 steps. Maybe because I overloaded my brain too much, my brain was screaming. The tension exceeding the limit had my muscles and body tightly contracted. One more step, and I'll really be caught. The next step was where the color of the fox's consciousness faintly leaked out. If I go one step further, I might be caught by the fox. Well, what does it matter? Though sweat poured down my entire body, I smirked. If I can take one more step, I don't mind dying. My body screamed madly. It felt like smoke would come out of my brain. If you want to live, squeeze out more. I'm a dunce. So, when the opportunity comes, if I don't squeeze out all my ability, I can't move forward. I can't move forward without dying. Blood rushed to my brain. At the same time, I was able to move half a step further. Half a step. Originally, I tried to take one more step, but my body instinctively prevented me from going any further. But I've crossed the limit. I wasn't caught. The fox was still asleep, and my body had gone far beyond what I thought was my limit. I smirked and quietly killed my presence, cutting through consciousness and stepping back. This was the end for this life. In the next life, I might be able to go a little deeper. Having completely escaped the influence of the fox's consciousness, I thought as I ran back to the cave. Next time, even more. I'll go deeper. Drip. As I arrived at the cave, blood flowed from my nose. It seemed to be due to overloading my brain. But even with the feeling of collapsing from exhaustion, I smiled, showing my teeth. Ha 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 ha. This life. The first day I woke up, I had succeeded in overcoming another limit. I will continue to surpass my limits and surely reach the next realm. The fifth regression. 5 energies converging to the origin seemed to be in sight. Chapter 26, Life 1. The events of the following day were similar to before. The fox appeared, bit my arm, and the next day a snake came asking for blood. The day after, a trio of cultivators appeared, healed my arm, and kidnapped my colleagues. The fourth day, the Sea Dragon King took away Deputy Manager O, and the strange hunchback took away Manager Kim. As usual, Kim Young-hoon and I were pushed into a spatial rift and lost consciousness. This place is... When I opened my eyes, it was an unfamiliar ceiling. A ceiling? Startled, I quickly got up and looked around. Kim Young-hoon was sprawled nearby. It seems we hadn't been out of the rift for long. I knew we'd be randomly transported somewhere in Yanghua, but being transported into someone's room is a first. Slightly amused, I pick up Kim Young-hoon and try to leave the room. Bang. And then, I lock eyes with a woman passing by the door, who clearly looks like a maid. Yeah, a thief. Damn it. I quickly tap the maid's sleep acupoint and hurry out of the room. Is this a mansion? It seems to be a mansion of someone quite powerful. Hey there. The villains went that way. That villain knocked me out and... No. Anyway, he came out of the lady's room. Far away, I hear the voice of the maid I had knocked out. It seems we had fallen into the room of the lady of this mansion. Damn, this is crazy. Why do we always end up in places like this when we fall? Thinking this, I was about to escape carrying Kim Young-hoon. How dare you sneak into the house of Lord Hyo-semin? You must be a mad thief. 2 elite warriors, looking like guards, were rushing towards me. Wait, Hyo-semin. I pause when I hear that name. That name was one of the pieces of information I had come across in my past life when digging into the imperial family's information. Lord Hyo, one of the top 5 corrupt officials in Yanghua. Known for his extreme exploitation of the people, he's been audited several times by the central government, but he always bribed the auditors and used his connections to slip away. His exploitation was so severe that he used his power to take brides from other families on their wedding nights and turn landowners into tenant farmers, and nobody could say anything against him. All right, a memorable piece of trash, that's why I remember his name. I turn my steps away from escaping and head back into the mansion. If he's such scum, he'll have enough wealth to last a lifetime, so borrowing a bit won't be a problem. I quickly entered Hyo-semin's inner chambers and began rummaging through the house. Some of Hyo-semin's private soldiers tried to threaten me, but I put them all to sleep with sleep acupoints and continued searching. After searching for a while, I found 12 gold toads in a wooden chest hidden by Hyo-semin. This should be useful. I tucked the chest with the gold toads into my arms, gathered a few more coins, and then left Hyo-semin's house. Afterward, wanted posters with my face circulated in Gyeoryong City, where Hyo-semin's mansion was, but I changed my appearance using a technique and bought a manor to stay in. In the manor, I taught Kim Young-hoon literacy and martial arts. A month passed like that. Shush. I chuckled as I looked at the 3 flowers floating above Kim Young-hoon's head. It's been a month now. A month since I, having reached the state of 3 flowers gather at the summit, started personally guiding Kim Young-hoon. Once he accumulated some internal energy, Kim Young-hoon reached the same state as me. The higher the state of the teacher, the shorter the learning time for the student. Even though he reached 3 flowers in a month, Kim Young-hoon had not finished learning literacy. Haha, I never knew I had such talent. To reach this state before learning the language and literacy. Since you have reached 3 flowers, I have a gift for you. Oh, what is it? A secret manual integrating the 6 volumes of Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts scripture created by Kim Young-hoon in my past life. Secrets of Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts. This Kim Young-hoon will reach even greater heights in this life. And he will evolve the secret manual again. I passed on the secret manual to him and taught him the language and letters of Yanghua, then sat in the manor looking up at the sky. What should I do in this life? I've wandered around the martial world, established factions, followed Kim Young-hoon, and even entered the imperial family. I do want to concentrate more on martial arts training this time. But I couldn't just ignore the ruthless deeds of the Mockley clan family. What could be a way to stop the Mockley clan and still train in martial arts? After some thought, I quickly found the answer. The Jin clan. Yes, the cultivators of the Jin clan, who were trying to drive the Mockley clan out of Yanghua. In this life, I should cooperate with the Jin clan. Just like in the latter part of my previous life, helping the Jin clan would indirectly hinder Mockley clan's activities. After deciding to visit the Jin clan, I went to Kim Young-hoon. I will go my own way from now on. Huh? Why, what happened? I just want to wander a bit. Kim Young-hoon seemed a bit anxious like before, but I reassured him and left Gyeoryong City. We had agreed to meet here once every 5 years, so there would be no problem in meeting again. I started heading towards a territory of the Jin clan. The secret base of the Jin clan was located in a valley called Suruk, north of Changho City, near the Yangwo's eastern region that borders Biokra. It was a place I had visited a few times in my past life. As far as I know, I heard it was where the lower-rank cultivators of the Jin clan stayed. After finding a suitable place, I waited for someone to come out of Suruk Valley. A few days of waiting went by. Finally, I saw a man in a red robe coming out of Suruk Valley. Around him, his consciousness dominated the space. A cultivator of the Jin clan. I secretly followed him. After arriving in Changho City, the man went into a tavern and began ordering food and drinks. Good, time to get closer. I casually joined him and ordered more good drinks. Who are you? Haha. I saw you looked lonely, so I came to drink. I'll pay for the drinks. Well, if you're really paying. After ordering enough food and drinks to break the table, we chatted. When he was somewhat drunk, I subtly steered the conversation towards cultivators. Soon, the inebriated Jin clan cultivator confessed to me that he was a cultivator and had come to the secular world for a mission. Truly impressive. A cultivator. I'd have no regrets working with such a noble lineage of cultivators. Well, but in our home, there are already too many mortals like you. When he seemed to reject my offer, I showed him the 12 gold toads I had stolen from Lord Hyo. If I could work under a cultivator clan, I could give these toads to you. Staring blankly at the gold toads for a moment, the Jin clan cultivator coughed and accepted the wooden chest I offered. Well, I'll mention it to the elders of my family. Hem. Haha, thank you. I'll rely on you. I smiled amiably and obtained a promise from him. The next day, though he seemed a bit troubled sobering up, he couldn't resist the temptation of the gold toads and pretended to take me to his clan before casting a flame spell at me. He wanted the gold toads, but didn't want to introduce me to the clan. This guy seems to be in the first star of chi refining. I frowned, split his flame spell with my sword, and shattered his defensive technique with my sword gang. What are you doing? Oh, I. If you don't want to introduce me to your clan, just say so. Do you think I'm some mortal to be taken lightly? Hi, hick. I glared at the Jin clan cultivator and grabbed him by the collar. Good. I'll use this as an excuse to make him take me to his clan. I nudged him to spit out 6 of the gold toads he had taken. Now that you've accepted 6 gold toads, you will guide me properly, right? I'm counting on a proper introduction this time. All right, I'll introduce you to the elders of the cultivator clan. I had no idea you were a master of 3 flowers gather at the summit. Stuttering, he guided me. I learned that his mission was to deliver a letter to the Jin clan's territory in another city. Together, we arrived at a Jin clan secret base near Yangwo City in Yanghwa. After delivering the letter to an older chi refining cultivator, he introduced me. Hearing that I was a master of 3 flowers, the eyes of the older chi refining cultivator lit up. Good timing. Someone of your caliber is certainly qualified to serve the clan. Haha, we needed an instructor to teach martial arts to mortals. 3 flowers at the summit. That's a high realm for mortals, correct? Yes, I dare not compare to the clan, but I have reached a high level among mortals like myself. Good. Follow me. I followed him to a training ground in the Jin clan's territory. There, children around 16 were practicing. The instructor seemed to be at the early pinnacle realm, struggling with the large number of kids. The education of these mortal children was entrusted to that instructor, but it seems he isn't doing well. You seem to have a higher level of martial arts, so you could teach them better, correct? Yes, leave it to me. I was quite pleased with the task of teaching kids. It wouldn't take too much of my training time. Especially since entering 3 flowers, I needed to study more about intent. Teaching kids would allow me to explore their intents too. By the way, why are these kids learning martial arts? Oh, that's because. The chi refining cultivator stroked his beard and explained. Recently, many cultivation sects that dominated the cultivation world suddenly disappeared. I don't know the details, but it said that cultivators above core formation suddenly vanished. So currently, the cultivation world is like the calm before the storm. The cultivator who reaches beyond core formation the fastest will become the authority, and their cultivator clan could become the leading faction. The current cultivation world seems calm on the surface, but is in a state of fierce hidden battles. Those ruthless Mokli clan are extending the lives of core formation cultivators with forbidden elixirs, creating an opportunity for their elders to reach beyond their realm. So that's what happened. I could roughly guess the chain of events that had occurred. The Ascension Gate, which opens once every 1,000 years. Many high-ranking cultivators and sects gathered at Ascension Path to challenge the Ascension Gate, leaving only core formation cultivators in the current cultivation world. The cultivator who reaches the next realm fastest could control the cultivation world. So the Mokli clan was draining the vital blood of mortals to extend the lives and cultivation of the core formation cultivators in their clan. I thought it was no big deal whether those monsters ascended or not, but it turned out to be the starting point of all these events. I nodded, listening to the Chi refining cultivator's explanation. The Mokli clan, that devilish clan, needs a vast amount of mortal blood for the process of creating their forbidden elixir. Because of that, disappearances are increasing everywhere in Yanghua. These kids are survivors rescued by our Jin clan. They all harbor immense resentment towards the Mokli clan and the current imperial family for killing their relatives. Our Jin clan wants to prevent the Mokli clan from making the elixir by draining mortals' vital blood and stop their core formation cultivators from surpassing their realm. Do the interests of the cultivator clan and these kids align? Then these kids. We plan to first reclaim Yanghua from the Mokli clan and prevent them from indiscriminately capturing mortals. As part of that, we're planning to assassinate the current emperor of Yanghua, Mokli Yong. I felt a chill hearing the next words. These kids have all volunteered as assassins. Can you teach them martial arts? That's when I realized the true nature of the unsettling feeling. I had to teach the kids whom I had personally beheaded in my past life. Chapter 27, Life 2. I dumbfoundedly checked the faces of the children one by one. I seemed to recognize some of them. Is there no other work? Other work? What do you mean? I am also skilled in medicine. I am good at handling information and confident in administrative tasks. Or I can take charge of poison or medicine production. Or, that's enough. The production of medicine and poison is not something a mere mortal can offer to a cultivator. And we already have enough people for information and administration. As a martial artist of the 3 flowers gather at the Summit Realm, you'd be more useful as a martial arts instructor. Is there no other job for a martial artist of 3 flowers? At this, the eyebrows of the elderly Chi refiner twitched. Are you objecting? Didn't you want to work with the cultivator clan? No, I misspoke. I sighed softly and reluctantly accepted his offer. If this is fate, the children whose necks I had personally severed. Now, I was to train those same children. What an ironic fate. I approached the instructor who was teaching the basic martial arts forms to the children. Now, strike down from there. Then immediately follow up with a straight. Excuse me, are you the martial arts instructor for these children? Who are you? The instructor was demonstrating with a dagger, and as soon as I saw his martial arts form, I recognized it instantly. The dagger technique used by the assassins in my past life, it was taught by this man. As soon as he realized I was a martial artist, he seemed eager to test his skills against mine, emitting red intent. However, I quickly merged my intent with his, covering his intent with purple. His intent was completely visible to me. A world where all other colors disappeared. Only blue, red, and purple intents intermingled in the empty space. I cut off all his intents and penetrated his guard with mine. He tried to defend hastily, but I relentlessly attacked his intended position with my intent. After a while, having been pushed back in the struggle of intents, he sighed deeply and bowed to me. Phew, I didn't recognize a master of 3 flowers. Please forgive me. Yes, I am the martial arts instructor Jik Reiho. I am Seo Eunhyun. Nice to meet you. I was appointed as a martial arts instructor by the true cultivators of the Jin clan. So, can you tell me how far you've taught them so I can adjust accordingly? So you're the new instructor. His face brightened noticeably. Ha ha ha. Come this way then. He pointed to a small hut next to the training ground, apparently his quarters. Everyone, repeat the same movement 500 times. He'll be back after entertaining the guest. After assigning the children a seemingly meaningless repetitive task, he led me to the hut. The inside of the hut was simple. There wasn't much that could be considered his belongings. First, let me pour you a cup of tea. But you seem quite young for a 3 flowers master. Are you perhaps in the legendary realm of rejuvenation? Not rejuvenation. Just think of it as a unique method. I see. Even among cultivators, all sorts of strange spells circulate, so a youth-restoring method isn't surprising. It seems like the cultivator clan brought in a new expert since I'm not making much progress. As he prepared the tea, I turned my gaze outside. Is teaching not going well? The kids have plenty of will. Of course, they've all lost their parents and siblings to the Mokli cultivator clan, and they're told they can seek revenge. But will is one thing, and the kids are, TSK. CHRRK. He placed a small cup in front of me and poured the tea. They lack talent. They weren't selected for talent, just orphaned children taken for training, so it's strange if they had any. The most talented child I've seen can probably only reach early first rate. Maybe they can use sword energy at best. That's their limit. And yet, the cultivator clan thinks I'm not teaching well enough and keeps pestering me. I'm already losing personal training time to those kids as it is. It's driving me mad. So my motivation to teach is dropping. I tried to resign, but the clan insists I can't leave until a new instructor is found. But honestly, the cultivator clan seems to want at least a peak master as an instructor. Where can you find peak masters as common as neighborhood dogs? I might be stuck here, but I was once a renowned eccentric in the martial world. As he presented the tea, I asked while savoring the aroma. So, Instructor Jeek, now that I've arrived, are you planning to resign? Haha. Yes, something like that. I've talked too much. I laid some foundation, so you should manage fine. I came for the high salary, but I don't want to waste time teaching those kids anymore. Ha ha ha. I'll be on my way then. After finishing his tea, Jeek Reho quickly packed his things and left the hut. He seemed very eager to avoid further teaching responsibilities. I didn't expect this. I thought I would at least be able to teach alongside him, but on the first day, the other instructor ran away. What kind of person is he? I finished my tea with a sense of disbelief and went out to the training ground. The children were still repetitively practicing stabbing motions with their daggers. Everyone stop. When I shouted with my internal energy, the children looked at me in surprise. Former instructor Jeek Reho resigned and left. Now, I am your new martial arts. I was about to say instructor, but swallowed my words and said, martial arts master. From today, I will be teaching you. At my words, they all stopped their movements, stood in their spots in a well-arranged posture, and saluted me with a martial arts bow. I thought he taught them the basics, but did he teach them how to hold greet? By my estimate, there were about 500 children. According to Jeek Reho, besides this place, there were other training grounds where assassins were being trained. Why did he teach saluting to assassins? After clearing my mind of these thoughts, I went down to the training ground and approached the child at the front. What's your name? My name is 14. I asked for your name, not your number. Don't you have a name given by your parents? At the mention of parents, the child's breathing seemed to become slightly rougher. Manho. All right. Everyone except Manho. Go to the side of the training ground and rest. From now on, I'll be examining each of your levels. At my command, the children seemed to stir briefly before sitting down next to the training ground. Come at me. Attack me with the intent to kill, as if I were a cultivator of the Mockley clan. Manho hesitated for a moment, then glared at me and kicked the ground, throwing sand in my eyes. Good judgment. He knows he can't compete in strength, so he attacks by blinding me with sand. However, it's useless against a peak master. I closed my eyes and sensed Manho's intent, catching the end of his dagger and disarming him. I understand your level. You may go. Next, you come out. The next child to come out hesitated briefly before saluting me. Don't salute. Would you salute your enemy in a real fight? Attack me with the intention to kill. The child grabbed Ahi's dagger and thrust it at me quickly. I moved slightly to dodge and disarmed him. Good thrust. What's your name? Yeolo. All right, Yeolo, go back. Next, come out. I continued to call the children out for sparring to assess their levels. By the time I called the 233rd child and was about to call the next one, I was startled. I was startled to see the face of the next child who came out. She was a girl and quite pretty, but her expression was filled with murderous intent. I knew that face. The day I realized Sword Silk. She was the female assassin I had personally beheaded. What's your name? Kawa. All right. Attack. Swoosh. Kawa attacked me with quick hand movements, thrusting her dagger. She was among the fastest I had seen. But something's off. I deflected Kawa's dagger with the tip of my foot and thought. Fast, but that's all. Her form was poor, and her internal energy was weak. Third rate, and early third rate at that. She has some talent among the children, but no real talent. This level of talent would only be slightly above average in a local dojo. How could such talent have threatened me in my past life? Did the cultivators use some strange ability? In my past life, Kim Young-hoon had mentioned that spirits were used to awaken the assassin's talents. Forced awakening of talent. I don't know how that works, so it's hard to predict their future growth. I finished my thoughts, sent Kawa back, and continued testing the children. By the time I had tested all 500 children, it was evening. There are 80 of them. The number of children I had personally beheaded and confirmed in my past life. Adding the assassins whose faces I hadn't seen, the number would be much more. I felt a complex emotion. In my past life, I had merely done my duty, but in this life, that duty feels like a sin. Can't help it. The past is the past. If I can't wash away this unease, then I'll do my duty to the best of my ability in this life too. Listen well, everyone. From now on, you'll come out one by one and demonstrate martial arts in front of me, starting with Manho. Instructor. Call me master or teacher. Yes, master. The previous instructor used to let us practice internal energy after sunset. Internal energy? I chuckled and said, listen, everyone. You are all dullards. From my sparring with you, I've realized you can never reach the pinnacle realm of martial arts, not even first rate, through normal training. To reach that level, you must become mad. Only with madness and ambition beyond a genius is there a glimmer of hope. From today, you won't practice internal energy even after sunset. You'll only start internal energy training when you can perform martial art moves as natural as breathing. You can't return to your quarters until you meet my standards either, whether it's night or day, without proper training. If you can't do at least one thing correctly, there will be no rest for you. Again, start by demonstrating martial arts in front of me, one person at a time. I started with Manho and continued to have the children demonstrate their martial arts in turn. They are all basically trained in dagger martial arts, probably influenced by the previous instructor. I watched the children demonstrate their martial arts and thought, but dagger martial arts are not suitable for everyone. Some are better with swords, some with spears, and others with maces. Some say such martial arts are too flashy or have large movements for assassination. But that's nonsense. The leader of the Shadow Guards wielded a large halberd and still protected the Emperor in the shadows. Assassins don't have to use only small weapons. I thought of suitable weapons for each child while watching their martial arts demonstration. Manho suits a great sword, Yeolo a spear, and Keiwa is good with daggers. I recalled the martial art manuals I had seen during my time as the chief strategist of the Walene Alliance and thought of martial arts suitable for the weapons. After the martial arts demonstration, I had the disciples cut down nearby trees to carve weapons suitable for the martial arts they would learn. After they had made crude weapons from wood, I taught them weapon techniques and martial arts. Once they memorized the appropriate martial art forms, weapons, and training methods, dawn was breaking again. The children, having learned the basic forms of the martial arts I taught, swung their weapons with faces that looked like they were about to collapse. By noon, children began to collapse from exhaustion in the training ground. I pulled out the exhausted ones, laid them down in a cool place, and used acupuncture to activate their life force and energy, enhancing their self-healing ability. Eventually, all the children in the training ground fainted. I pulled them all out and used acupuncture to activate their life force, then went to find the Cultivator clan. The Cultivator clan had an internal financial manager who managed the clan's assets like gold and silver that were used in the mortal world. I went to the external financial manager. I need new weapons. What kind? The types are. I took out a paper with the types of weapons I had listed and handed it to the external financial manager, who was from the mortal world. The external financial manager looked at the paper and growled at me, glaring. Are you crazy? You want all this? Just one of each. The Cultivator clan is rich, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? Still, there's a limit. And not just weapons, but also some herbs. What? Herbs? What herbs? Herbs to aid in training recovery. I definitely said I wanted them. If the children's martial arts progress is hindered, it's all your fault. What? How can that be? The external financial manager seemed flustered but eventually agreed to my request for weapons and herbs. A few days later, I received the herbs and weapons, distributed them to the disciples, and taught them how to properly wield the weapons. They trained with the weapons I chose until they were exhausted, and then I fed them medicines I had made to recover their strength. After about a year of teaching, the eyes of the disciples were filled with venom. Now, they could all follow the basic moves of their weapon techniques, even with their eyes closed. At that time, I finally taught them internal energy cultivation methods. Of course, I didn't let them sit comfortably and practice internal energy. They had to train with their weapons, combining form and practice. Another year passed, and the eyes of the disciples were filled with a murderous intent to kill me. Now they've all grown to late third rate. Excluding the time for meals and necessary daily tasks, my disciples practiced martial arts incessantly, without a moment to rest. There was no time set aside for sleep. They trained continuously from sunrise to sunset, and then from sunrise again, only resting when they fainted from exhaustion. Their bodies did not easily succumb to harm. Thanks to the herbs sent from the Cultivator clan, which I used to make medicine, and my use of acupuncture to prevent exhaustion-related damage, they were kept in good health. I allowed them to rest fully only twice a month, and the rest of the time was dedicated to relentless training, and more training. Thanks to my, perhaps, insane teaching methods, all my disciples reached the early stages of the second tier in just 3 years. I'm glad they've all followed well. I thought this as I sparred with my disciples today. The training was grueling to the point of nausea, but none of them ever gave up. Their deep-seated anger towards the Mockley clan, responsible for the death of their families, must be driving them. Whoosh! Swinging a great sword, a disciple named Hei Wung followed my movements with eyes ablaze with murderous intent. Yet, I closed my eyes, dodged his sword, and kicked his legs. Your lower body is exposed. Thud! But the disciple didn't flinch, continuing his attack even as his leg was kicked. Good, he's grown in spirit. I dodged the sword again, and then thrust my hand deep into his side. Cough. The next opponent was a girl named Chanya. I heard she had watched her parents turn into a pool of blood at the hands of a cultivator. Swish. Chanya, wielding hidden weapons in both hands, launched them at me. I had personally taught her my infinite fighting hidden weapon technique. The initial form of double killing snake is not used like that. You need to create a very slight delay. I caught all the hidden weapons she threw and returned them, advising her. Though they all showed remarkable growth compared to 3 years ago, they still fell short in my eyes. But they all have more talent than I do. When I was 3rd tier, it took me 10 years just to barely step into the next realm. Of course, back in my days, there were no peak master or crazy martial arts training schedules. Even the time to practice martial arts was limited. But these children were still better than me. Even I, at their stage, had only taken a single step forward, while they had leaped across realms. I wasn't just idling. While overseeing my disciples' martial arts, I continuously operated the vision of a peak master every day, delving into the world of intent and observing consciousness. While teaching, I used the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts to its limits, observing the results and analyzing the patterns of consciousness. My efforts in delving deeper into intent were not in vain. Only recently, within the realm of 3 flowers gather at the summit, was I able to take another step forward. As I grew accustomed to handling intent and practicing the record, I discovered the world beyond the 3 colors, finding the next color. The 4th color. I discovered it the day after an endless sparring session with my disciples, on one of their bi-monthly rest days. This intent was not as clear as the others. Unlike intent during combat, it did not take the form of a thread, and the actions it led to were not precise. Compared to the intentions I had felt so far, this was utterly alien. Yet, paradoxically, it was precisely because it was so alien that I could detect it. The color of the 4th intent was pale pink. The name of this intent was love. The loving intent stretched from Manho to Kawa. How pure. I was quite surprised when I discovered this intent. To think that love could blossom even during such grueling training. Of course, besides Manho, several other disciples also had loving intent towards others. Humans are truly remarkable. Even in hellish conditions, emotions can bloom. That's what it means to be human. I continued to observe my disciples' intents and oversee their martial arts training. 2 years had passed since I discovered the intent of love. Having become adept in understanding intent, I discovered a 5th intent in just 2 years. This new intention was a dark crimson hue. Its name was hatred. The intent of hatred had been so naturally mixed with my disciples' intents that it took me some time to notice. The intent of hatred was faintly directed towards me, occasionally towards each other, but mostly it extended towards some unseen place. It was probably directed towards the cultivators of the Mokli clan. Intriguing. The intents discovered after 3 flowers seemed somewhat removed from martial arts. Yet why does one find such emotions in the pursuit of martial arts? In combat, how can these emotions be of any significance? The promised time is approaching. The day to meet Kim Young-hoon was drawing near. For the first time in a long while, I left the Jin clan's territory and headed to Gyeolryong City. As I entered the manor I had bought previously, Kim Young-hoon was waiting for me. It's been a while, Co Eun-hyen. I couldn't find you anywhere for 5 years. Where have you been? Well, I just went to a quiet mountain village. By the way, Kim Hyung, I asked him, measuring his intent. Have you reached the edge of 3 flowers gather at the summit, or have you already stepped into the next realm? He was on the verge of reaching 5 energies converging to the origin. Haha, it seems so. Challenging the greatest in the world, I found myself at 5 energies before I knew it. It's all thanks to the secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts. It truly deserves to be called divine martial arts. The secret methods was indeed a tremendous martial art. The minimum entry requirement was 3 flowers, and even I, who had reached that realm, found it difficult and only studied its lesser counterpart, the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Anyway, thanks to the secret methods, I've come this far, and you've made some progress too. Yes, I've successfully discovered the 4th and 5th intent. Haha, congratulations. It's definitely fascinating, isn't it? The world of martial arts. Just when I thought I had finally reached the end, it turned out to be just the beginning of discovering more intent. How joyful. Joy. Do I find joy in martial arts? I'm not sure. I've just been mindlessly challenging myself. Perhaps that's the source of Kim Young-hoon's talent. I asked him what I had been curious about. By the way, Kim Hyung, I've never considered emotions like love or hatred in my martial arts practice. I've always thought they were useless in exerting force. Indeed, they don't help in combat. But why do we discover these emotions while pursuing martial arts? Kim Young-hoon pondered my question for a moment, then drew his saber with a grin. What use is there in only talking? Let's have a match. Haha, as expected of Kim Hyung. Swoosh. Yes, that's what it means to be a martial artist. Swish. Kim Young-hoon's intent shot towards me. A red line intertwined with my intent, turning purple. I read his intent, understood his purpose, and swung my sword. Severing vein saber method. Mountain wind. Beyond the purple intent that connected us, It seemed like I could hear Kim Young-hoon's martial art moves. Swish. An incredibly fast thrust aimed at me. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Entering mountain. Boom. I switched to a low stance to dodge his thrust, and then severing mountain swordsmanship. Chi mountain. Heart heaven. I opened my meridians and extended the length of my sword, aiming for Kim Young-hoon's ankle. Severing vein saber method. Mountain echo. Ting. The sound of the saber resonated. Kim Young-hoon's energy vibrated through his saber blade. The subtly vibrating blade aimed straight at my sword's silk. I mustn't let it touch. My sword's silk wouldn't be able to handle it. Boom. I infused my sword's silk with intent, connecting with Kim Young-hoon's intent and turning it into sword gang. As his vibrating saber touched my sword gang visibly faded and its speed slowed. If I hadn't converted it to sword gang, it wouldn't just have dispersed. The sword's silk would have shattered, and the impact would have reached me. Kim Young-hoon's intent spread widely. Severing vein saber method. Mountain sound. The energy flowing from his saber spread out like waves, seemingly resonating in all directions, but ultimately focusing a single powerful blow at me. Such a technique couldn't be blocked by ordinary martial arts. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Mountain echoes, valley response. I also transformed my sword energy into a waveform, neutralizing his technique. Beyond mountain sound, numerous intents whirled as Kim Young-hoon slowly approached. Exhilarating. His steps were free, yet each movement avoided even the slightest disturbance in the air, approaching along the utmost efficient trajectory. Severing vein saber method. Mountain bird. His movement was akin to a small bird. As I read the trajectory of his intent and prepared to respond to his next move. From the depths of Kim Young-hoon's emotions, the intent of love burst forth, intertwining with the trajectory of intent I was trying to discern. Simultaneously, the trajectory of intent I had been reading became a chaotic mess, making it difficult to understand. As he approached with Mountain Bird, his saber was already swinging right in front of me. What? To counter his trajectory, I first used Transcendent Peak Step to pressurize his movements and responded to his Mountain Bird. As Kim Young-hoon came closer to me, he seemed to smile slightly and thrust his saber. Severing vein saber method. Mountain opening. Chwak. Numerous saber blades whirled around. I countered with landscape painting and exchanged blows with him. From one technique to the next, his intent surged forth, and my intent countered his. With every exchange of techniques, countless lines intersected in the world of intent, engaging in a battle of harmony. It was when my blue thread blocked his red trajectory. Whoosh. Kim Young-hoon's red trajectory turned into a dark crimson hue. The intent of hatred. This intent of hatred easily penetrated my blue intent and disrupted my inner harmony, leading to an actual collision between my sword and his saber. The energy on his saber blazed as if on fire. Just like in the world of intent, his blade cut through my sword and aimed straight for my heart. Boom. Our sparring ended there. What was that just now? You saw it, didn't you? Kim Young-hoon smiled. Emotions can be infused in martial arts. I couldn't calm my shaken mind for a moment and asked him in return. Does it mean that martial arts are alive when you say emotions exist in martial arts? He smiled and asked back, what do you think? Is martial arts alive? No. I spoke of what I felt while practicing martial arts, the realization I had when I understood sword silk. Martial arts are not alive. It's me who's alive, and it's only martial arts when I infuse my intent into it. Right? The sword isn't alive, but the martial artist wielding and swinging it is alive. Sword silk is the intent infused by the martial artist, and the sword gang is the communication of that intent with the world. Then, he continued, if infusing our own intent into martial arts means that martial arts becomes a part of ourselves, then emotions like love and hatred, integral to our being, are also a part of us. Even though you said that they have no meaning in the pursuit of martial arts, we are ultimately made of such emotions. Somehow it made sense. Martial arts aren't alive, but the human wielding them is. What makes up that human are emotions? So, the more we delve into martial arts, we also deepen our understanding of ourselves, exploring the very core of our existence. If understanding oneself reaches a certain level, like I just did, it's possible to influence the trajectory of intent. Thank you for the advice. If blue and red is the level of survival instinct, and purple is the level of true understanding, then the colors beyond them are about ourselves. And he looked up at the sky and said, when we understand all the colors that humans possess, we earn the right to see the colors beyond human reach. That is, 5 energies converging to the origin. Kim Young-hoon nodded. Thanks to the secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, I'm qualified to challenge 5 energies. So, I wonder, could you stand guard for me? I nodded. Of course. In the manner where no one else was present, Kim Young-hoon immediately sat in meditation and began his challenge to transcend the realm. I also watched intently, hoping to see him cross over. The vision of a peak master, blue and red. Beyond is the vision of 3 flowers, purple and many other different colors. Those are the colors Kim Young-hoon has realized. In my sight, only pale pink and dark crimson of Kim Young-hoon's intents were visible. However, I could guess his other intents through these 2 hues. Intents not visible to me, writhing beyond love and hatred. His red intent began to branch out. Up to this point, it was a sight I had seen in my past life. But now, having reached 3 flowers, I saw another realm. The intent of love and hatred intertwined, filling the gaps in his red intent. They began to connect. Many other invisible intents must be doing the same. The red intent expanded, the dark crimson brushed past, and the pale pink filled the interior. Beautiful. Eventually, all his intent converged and overtook the surrounding area. Huang. Energy from the surroundings was drawn in. Though I couldn't see it in detail, I surmised that Kim Young-hoon was already seeing another world. The energies gathered around him soon clustered above his head into 5 circles, then merged into a 5-colored cloud that flowed into Kim Young-hoon's mouth and nose. A moment later, crackle, Kim Young-hoon's body began a transformation, undergoing a metamorphosis. I observed this process, pushing my brain to its limits. His skin cleared, wrinkles smoothed out, dead cells revived, and hair grew on his head. His aged face became younger, even younger than mine. A complete rejuvenation. Kim Young-hoon, who had succeeded in rejuvenation, half opened his eyes. Did you see it, Eun-hyun? Yes. It's beautiful. I hope it was helpful to you. Thank you. I bowed to him in gratitude. The scene I had just witnessed would be immensely helpful for when I reach 5 energies converging to the origin. I spent a few days discussing martial arts with him and then returned to the Jin clan's territory. On the way back, I realized another intent. The color was gold. It was the intent of joy. Chapter 28, Life 3. My disciples were growing rapidly. In the 6th year of my hellish training regime, they had grown to mid-second rate. After meeting Kim Young-hoon, I realized something. Handling martial arts ultimately means handling humans, and humans are essentially made of emotions. Since then, significant growth has occurred in me. I have discovered a few more intentions. Gold joy, blood red anger, dark blue sorrow, violet pleasure, pale pink love, dark crimson hatred. Based on these 6 intentions, I have been steadily growing. How peculiar. I thought the realm of 5 energies converging to the origin would be the most challenging and treacherous of all realms. Surprisingly, I found myself progressing sequentially towards the realm of 5 energies. Why is that? As I walked among my disciples, observing the fabric of their intentions, I felt there were many more colors within humans. It was just my inability to see beyond, but even that would someday be possible if I continued to train in the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts and reflected deeply. Why? What makes the realm of 5 energies different from other realms? I was pondering this when Instructor Seo, you were here. An old man of the Jin clan, at Chi Refining, arrived on a flying device. He was in charge of the assassination squads, checking on the disciples' progress at regular intervals. What brings you here today? It's not your usual visit. Well, the higher-ups of the clan have been hoping to see some results soon. Results, you mean? He must be talking about deploying them for assassinations. Hearing this, my face scrunched up. That's nonsensical. These kids are only at mid-second rate. Even the palace guards are peak masters. They wouldn't stand a chance and would be beheaded before even getting close. I know. The higher-ups are somewhat aware too, but they don't want to delay any longer. We've been preparing for a time like this. Preparing? Follow me. I followed him on the flying device to somewhere within the Jin clan's domain. That place, a hidden warehouse, had an eerie aura swirling around it. The old man led me inside the warehouse. Inside were thousands of crystal balls lined up in rows. I've heard that masters of 3 flowers gather at the summit, like cultivators, have some intuition even if they aren't fully conscious. Do you see it? Although I couldn't see it clearly, I noticed strange intents writhing inside the crystal balls. Dark blue, dark crimson, and bright red hues were swirling around. It seems something is suffering inside. Yes, these are the souls of your disciples' families. The remnants collected by us after the Mockley clan's cultivators drained their blood and vitality. The old man caressed a ball and said, I've informed all the other instructors teaching different groups. From today, we'll infuse each child with the soul of their kin, forcibly stimulating their upper dantian in the forehead. This will enable them to fully awaken their talents. Of course, their lifespan will be shortened a bit, and there might be some mental issues, but it's not a major problem, as long as they know who their assassination target is. I refuse. I glared at him. My training methods are sufficient for them to grow stronger. Even if they grow stronger through such external methods, they can't reach the pinnacle realm. I know you train them well. The groups trained by other instructors are barely late third rate. Still, they can't even match the weakest of the chi refining first star. Rather than that, it's better to use external methods to elevate them to a higher realm sooner. But you said it would cause mental issues and shorten their lifespan. Those kids are assassins. They were all warned in advance that while they could avenge their parents, they might die. They don't plan to live long. I barely restrained myself from punching the cultivator's face. Warned those young, ignorant kids and got their consent. How absurd is that? Is there a risk of death from receiving this treatment? Don't worry. Why do you think we went to the trouble of collecting the souls of mortals? They are all souls of their kin. Even if they've become vengeful spirits, they'll recognize their blood, so there won't be any deaths. Understood. I gritted my teeth inwardly and left the warehouse. I headed to the training ground and shouted at my disciples. Everyone listen. Despite my call, the disciples didn't stop training. I had instructed them to do so. They just listened while continuing their training. But I spoke to them again. Stop your training for a moment. I have something important to say. Then, all the disciples stopped and looked at me. I relayed to them what I had learned from the assassination overseer. So, you will now receive the souls of your kin to awaken your talents and train for assassination. But, I made eye contact with each disciple and continued. If anyone does not wish to, I will ensure they don't have to receive a soul. Those who don't want to become assassins, I will negotiate with the cultivator clan to let them out as external forces. But before I could finish, all my disciples answered in unison. We don't care when we die if it's for revenge. Blood red and dark crimson intense burst forth around them. From every single one of them. Is this really the right thing to do? I bit my lips softly. Their eyes were all bloodshot. I couldn't understand them. I never experienced losing someone dear in such a brutal way at a young age. I couldn't fully understand the depth of their anger and hatred. I could only confirm that they had anger and hatred. All right. I nodded, accepting their will. Do as you wish. There was no one in this place who didn't want revenge. That night, cultivators from the Jin clan came and took my disciples away. Even then, no one said they wouldn't receive the souls or gave up on assassination. Despite explaining the side effects, they were all resolute. The sun dawned the next day. Is everyone all right? I looked around and asked. Their intents seemed a bit more clouded. We're fine. In their eyes, there was now a strange madness that hadn't been there before. I bit my lips softly and resumed training. For years past. Shush. I dodged the hidden weapons flying towards me and exchanged blows with Changya. Somewhat matured, she raised red intent, recognizing her own trajectory and reading mine. Chong. I deflected her weapons and then pointed my blade at her chin. That's enough. Go back in. Yes. She briefly greeted me and returned to her place. After sparring with the next disciple, I sent them back as well. In the past 4 years, all my disciples had become peak masters. They had reached a realm I had barely achieved in several lifetimes, but I felt neither admiration nor pride in their advancement. In exchange for their radical awakening of talents, their lifespan was significantly shortened. Their lifespan would continue to decrease as long as they harbored souls. Additionally, their eyes no longer showed any vitality. Their eyes now flowed with ghostly energy, and sometimes their murderous intent even startled me. Moreover, I knew their limits even better. These kids, in this state, can never go beyond mid-peak. In fact, they won't even realize their intent at mid-peak. In short, they could never use sword silk. I knew. If these kids infiltrated the Imperial Palace, they would be doomed against the Shadow Guards. Is it right to send them on assassinations? Recently, that thought dominated my mind. Until now, I had been training them out of slight guilt from my past life, and the responsibility of being their master. But now my thoughts changed. The more I practiced the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts and felt the fabric of intent, the deeper I delved into 3 flowers, feeling more and more intense. The longer I spent time with my disciples, these children are alive. The more I vividly felt the life in my disciples, despite the dense ghostly energy and even more intense murderous and poisonous intentions. Still, Manho likes Keiwa. Yeolo is happiest when eating dumplings. Changya emits happy intent when resting. Keiwa, diligent in martial arts, feels faint joy when praised by me. Songjin remembers his parents when he sees dandelions and becomes sad. Jin-sam dislikes when I correct his posture. Huye has been yearning for one of the good-looking young masters of the cultivator clan ever since she saw him. All of them are alive, and I felt like I could never bear to see them die. Master, when can we participate in assassinations? Manho, after finishing sparring with me, asked. The other disciples also pricked up their ears, curious about my answer. I smiled wryly and said, you'd be severely beaten even by the weakest of the Emperor's guards. Each of the Shadow Guards is equivalent to the head of a major sect or an elder. You are at least 1, 2, or 3 levels below them. What nonsense are you spouting regarding assassinations? But if all 500 of us rush in, it might be worth a try, right? I looked at Manho as if he was talking nonsense and said, is it assassination if 500 people rush in? That's a war. The Jin clan wants to assassinate Mok Li Yung quickly and silently, not start a war. Why don't we try waging a war without the support of the Jin clan? He scratched his head with an annoyed look. I recalled a time when I was in the Shadow Guards and all the members gathered to face a master of 3 flowers. The Shadow Guards can eliminate even a master of my level once they pass the test. Stop these pointless thoughts and focus more on your training. Up until now, the Jin clan had been sending assassins from other areas to the Imperial family one by one. Already, these assassins from other areas had surpassed the skills of their martial arts instructors through forced talent awakening using resentful spirits. But I still hadn't sent any of my disciples for assassination, using their underachievement as an excuse. However, I knew their skills better than anyone. These disciples, to whom I had taught all my medical and poison skills, each had the combat power of a mid-level peak master. If more than 5 of them attacked together, they could potentially assassinate the Emperor by breaking through the Shadow Guards. But they can't come back alive. I wished for my disciples to return alive. What's the use of killing the Emperor? The Emperor is a cultivator after all. Considering the size of his consciousness, he's about a 4th or 5th star chi refining cultivator. Moreover, like the Crown Prince, he probably has 1 or 2 life-saving devices and techniques at his disposal. Even if 2 or 3 of them sacrifice themselves to kill the Emperor, it will certainly cause a significant disturbance, attracting not only the Shadow Guards, but also the Emperor's personal guards. Going to kill the Emperor meant, at the same time, going to die. If I had this mindset from the beginning, I would have given them maps of the palace and secret passages, prepared all the poison and medicine I could make, and sent them for assassination. Then I would have come to terms with it. But now, I cannot do that anymore, because I realized that these children are alive. They each have their own life. A few days later, I headed back to Keelyong City to keep my appointment with Kim Young-hoon. It's been a long time, Eun-hyun. It's been a long time, Kim-hyung. It seems your level has risen again, I said, looking at the sphere of Gang Chi spinning around him. He had apparently reached a new realm, surpassing secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts. Yes, I've successfully reached the stage of using Gang Chi compression sphere. Now, there's almost nothing to fear. And you too. Kim Young-hoon's eyes sparkled as he looked at me. Amazing, you've already mastered 6 of the 7 emotions. Yes, the progress is surprisingly fast. Of course, it's just 6 out of the thousands, if not millions, of intent. Just 6, you say? The 7 emotions are the most basic intents. Excluding the survival instincts of blue and red, the 7 emotions are the foundation of intent. From these 7 basic intents, human emotions, ranging in the thousands and millions, are formed. He showed me the flow of his intent, dividing them intricately, as if to explain. If you've mastered the 6 basic intents, you'll continue to discover new shades just by observing the derived intents. I see. Thank you for the advice. But about the enlightenment in 3 flowers gather at the summit. I asked him something I was curious about. You think you're progressing fast? Yes. You? I felt somewhat embarrassed by Kim Young-hoon's question, a man who had reached 5 energies from 3 flowers in just 5 years. But I nodded. Considering my talent, I should have been discovering the colors much more slowly. In fact, at the beginning, I was prepared to go through 2 or 3 regressions to reach 5 energies. It was surprising how fast I was discovering the colors. Well, honestly, I'm not sure if you're fast. But if you say so, maybe you have a special aptitude for 3 flowers. I shook my head. That doesn't seem right. I really had no talent for martial arts. So why am I so suited for 3 flowers? Indeed, compared to me, you're lacking, but your growth seems a bit faster than other masters of 3 flowers I've seen. Strange. From what I've observed, enlightenment in 3 flowers tends to favor older people. What? I asked, slightly surprised. Age. From 3 flowers onwards, not only martial arts, but also one's life becomes important. It's a stage where you excavate the 7 emotions constituting life and contemplate the millions of intents derived from them. The more experiences and feelings one has from living a long life, the more advantageous it is in the enlightenment of 3 flowers. Actually, I thought that the reason I reached 5 energies from 3 flowers in just 5 years was because I'm quite old. I was a manager in a major corporation, after all. Thinking back to my younger days when I struggled to save our company. Kim Young-hoon seemed to reminisce about his company days for the first time in a while. Listening to him, I finally understood my enlightenment. It wasn't that I was fast. It wasn't that I was fast in observing 6 intents over 10 years. It would have been strange if I hadn't realized that much at my age. In terms of physical age, I'm 39 years old. But mentally, I'm as old as Kim Young-hoon's ancestor. I've lived several different lives over hundreds of years through multiple regressions. There might be no one older than me in the martial world of Yanghua. In fact, compared to other masters of 3 flowers, I had a much more advantageous condition, but my talent was so terribly poor that I was only able to achieve enlightenment at this rate. Should I be happy? I was in the best condition to gain enlightenment in 3 flowers. Thanks to that, I'm realizing intense and understanding intense faster than ever in my life. But my talent is so terribly poor that in the same time, when others would have realized thousands or even tens of thousands of intense, I only realized 6. If Kim Young-hoon had lived the same time as me, he would have moved from 3 flowers to 5 energies in 2 or 3 seconds. I felt a bit odd. By the way, about the information you've sent me over the past few years. Over the past few years, I've been sending Kim Young-hoon information about cultivators while teaching my disciples, especially about a few places in the territory of Mockley clan and the places they connect to. Thanks to that information, I was able to enter the territory of the Mockley clan. Is that so? Anger gradually appeared in his eyes. They are committing atrocious acts hidden behind a formation in a secret place. They are making elixir out of humans. He continued with his angry explanation. So, will you join me in dealing with these atrocious cultivators? Those people, they shouldn't be alive in this world. Yes, you're right. But it will be impossible for you alone to kill them all. Of course, that's why I'm gathering willing people. That won't be enough. I looked him in the eye and said, use poison to fight poison. To punish evil, we need to use another evil. I told him about the Jin clan, a cultivating clan opposed to the current imperial family, Mockley clan, the previous imperial family of Yanghua, a somewhat better cultivating clan than the openly devilish Mockley clan. How about reaching out to them? Certainly. It's better than challenging them barehanded. He pondered for a moment and then accepted my request. I headed with Kim Young-hoon to the territory of the Jin clan. You seem like a new cultivator. What brings you to the Jin clan's territory? An elderly cultivator from Yanghua, guarding the formation of the Jin clan's territory, asked Kim Young-hoon. He must have recognized Kim Young-hoon's consciousness. A cultivator. I am a martial artist. A martial artist? Stop joking and state your purpose for being in the territory. Kim Young-hoon calmly explained his purpose, and the old man's face changed to a look of disdain. You're really a martial artist, not a cultivator. You seem to have learned martial arts without knowing you were born with spiritual roots. How about joining our clan as an external member? Without even learning cultivation methods, and not even being a first-star chi refining cultivator, but having such a large consciousness indicates you have potential. Did you even listen to me? I'm here to stop the wicked deeds of the Mockley clan and join forces with you. How do you confront cultivators with mere martial arts? Don't talk nonsense. Think about becoming an external member, as I said. Kim Young-hoon looked at the old cultivator for a moment, then drew his saber from its sheath. I sighed softly. He lost his temper. Put that saber away. The moment you swing it at me, you'll turn to ashes. Boom. Wham. Kim Young-hoon's action was brief. He sent his gang chi flying towards the formation covering the Jin clan's territory. A huge crack appeared in one corner of the formation due to his bundle of gang chi. Seeing this, the old chi refining cultivator just opened his mouth in shock and stared. After that, Kim Young-hoon's demands were easily met. A chi-building cultivator from the Jin clan assessed his strength, and after being beaten up by Kim Young-hoon's gang sphere to the point of getting dusty on a rainy day, had to acknowledge his prowess. In the Jin clan, Kim Young-hoon was recognized as a cultivator of chi-building stage and strength. Having gained the Jin clan's approval, Kim Young-hoon was recognized as a combatant of the clan, gaining the authority to roam around the territory. I took Kim Young-hoon to the training grounds where my disciples were. These are the kids, Kim Hyung. Why do these kids have several souls in one body? That is. As I explained about the disciples, a subtle anger appeared in Kim Young-hoon's eyes. Honestly, they might seem better than the Mockley clan, but from your explanation, I'm not sure if these guys are really any better. Instead of helping the spirits of the dead rest in peace, they put them into the bodies of their kin, shortening their kin's lifespan. Well, according to them, the spirits can fulfill their grudges through the bodies of their kin. Nonsense. The dead should entrust their future to the living and rest in peace. This is just another way of desecrating the dead. That's right. That's why I brought you here, Kim Hyung. I looked at the training disciples and asked Kim Young-hoon, could you please help detach the spirits attached to my disciples' bodies so they can finally go to the afterlife? Kim Young-hoon shook his head after looking at my disciples for a while. It's going to be tough. With secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, it's possible to interfere with spirits. Anyone who has reached 5 energies can do it. But these kids are clinging to the souls of their own family members. They probably don't want to be separated from their families. In this state, it's hard even for my martial arts. The only way is for the kids to let go themselves, or they die and go to the afterlife together. I see. Or, if there's someone they trust enough to open up their hearts, it might be possible through them. But in this state, even cultivators won't have much of a way. The kids are clinging to their families themselves. He clicked his tongue and left, apologizing for not being able to help. Kim Young-hoon was going to wander the martial world, gathering like-minded peak masters and three-flower martial artists. I sat quietly, watching my disciples train. I'm sorry, Kim Hyung. I, too, can't be of any help to these kids. The Jin clan was starting to put pressure on me. They were suggesting that it's time to send someone for an assassination attempt. I proposed sending a group of 20 for the assassination, but it was rejected as being too noisy and unnecessary. In fact, bringing Kim Young-hoon this time was also a part of getting out of that pressure. I'm sorry. There's nothing else I can do. I quietly closed my eyes while watching the movements of my disciples in tents in the training ground. Days passed like that. What's this? I used to give my disciples 2 days off a month, but after they became peak masters, I let them rest 2 days every 7 weeks. I hoped they would take a break and live a more human life, especially since they were already tired from the spirits within them. However, this time on their day off, one of my disciples, Nak-hyun, left a letter in my quarters and disappeared. I can't just keep spending time like this. I'm going to avenge my brother and sister. Even if I die, it doesn't matter. Thank you for everything you taught me. Damn it. I clenched my teeth and crumpled the letter in my pocket. Manho, did you see where Nak-hyun went? I asked Manho, the de facto leader of my disciples, about Nak-hyun's whereabouts. But Manho just kept his mouth shut. I'm asking you. Tell me where Nak-hyun went. Manho, then it happened. Why are you scolding that kid for no reason? Don't be too harsh. You. I glared at the old man who had flown in on a flying device, the overseer of the assassin squad. The kid volunteered himself. He said he at least wanted to strike the Mockley clan bastards who killed his siblings. I admired his spirit and praised him. You egged him on. Didn't I tell you? My disciples are far from ready for assassination. If you must send them, they should go in groups of 20. The elders of the clan were displeased to hear that there is a group that only trains and never participates in assassinations. We had to send at least one. As for 20, that's nonsense. We need to move stealthily. Sending such a large group of assassins would only give the Mockley clan more reason to act. Clench. I gathered my weapons, poisons, and hidden weapons. Where are you going? Nak-hyun can't go. He had an accident today and broke both legs. He has no choice but to rest. Absolutely not. Without forming a group of at least 20, it's impossible to penetrate the shadow guards. It's a death sentence. The old man just looked at me and clicked his tongue, not stopping me. I followed Nak-hyun's trail and left the territory. He seems to have covered his tracks. Apparently, he underestimated my martial arts experience. Since operating the intelligence organization Gwyangak, covering and tracking trails has been my specialty. Dare to move so clumsily in front of me. I'm an old martial arts master who has spent over 100 years in the martial world. In terms of actual combat experience, even Kim Young-hoon can't raise his head in front of me. I followed Nak-hyun's trail, chasing after him. Crossing mountains and valleys with mountain lords soaring flight, I began to smell Nak-hyun from afar. He seemed to have hidden his scent, but hiding it was meaningless against me, who could always maximize my senses. Swoosh. As I rushed towards him with the wind, a metal whip suddenly struck through the air. 3 strands of intent emanated from the whip. 3 combo moves. In a sparring match, I would have adjusted to his rhythm. But right now, I was not in the mood. Flash. With the drawing of my sword gang crystallized on the blade. My single strike pierced through the gap in his intent and cut his metal whip. Thud. Come out, Nak-hyun. Nak-hyun, who had been hiding in the bushes targeting me, came out after releasing his concealment. Where are you going? To kill the trash that devoured my brother and sister. To the Imperial Palace? He nodded silently. I clicked my tongue and said, with your skills, it's impossible. The Shadow Guards are not a group to be gambled with. Unless 20 of you with good synergy attack together. 20 aren't necessary. Nak-hyun interrupted me. With just about 9, we can kill the Emperor. But why do you keep setting such impossible conditions and stop us? Sure, 9 of you might be able to threaten the Emperor. But all of you will die. I don't care if we die. His eyes blazed with fury. What do you know? Did you watch your family being torn apart right in front of you? Even now in my head, my brother and sister are calling my name. They say it hurts, that it's agonizing. They beg me to resolve this grudge. You don't know. You don't know this rotten feeling. Silence fell between us. We just looked at each other, not exchanging thoughts though intent. I don't know. You don't know and yet. What I do know. I looked him in the eye and said, you like Kawa. I don't what? And you dislike Manho because he seems to be after Kawa. Caught off guard by my sudden words, he looked at me blankly. You like to eat fiddleheads? hate melons, and don't like watermelons. During breaks, you usually do wood carving. You don't mind when I correct your stance, but you get annoyed when I point out your internal energy flow. Don't you feel an immense sense of happiness when you train on a winter day and then, after dousing yourself with cold water, take a bath in hot water? You also always feel depressed when you're alone in the toilet. I don't know how rotten you are inside. I can only see through my one-sided perspective, but through my eyes this is who you are. Nakhayan's emotions surged. His various intents were revealed, showing his emotional state. You've lived like this. You're living like this, and you'll continue to live like this. I want you to stay alive. I adopted a fighting stance. Therefore, I cannot let you die. Come at me. If you can last 50 seconds against me without falling, I will let you go. After biting his lips for a while, Nakhayan took out a new weapon from his bosom. Whoosh. Our intents intertwined, and a second passed. And then, my fist plunged straight into his face. Chapter 29, Life 4. 1 second. My fist dug into Nakhayan's face. 2 seconds. As his intent stretched out to escape my trajectory, I attacked the blood vessels in his legs, making him roll on the ground. 3 seconds. Taking advantage of rolling on the ground, he swung a poisoned iron piece at me. I deflected the iron piece with a hidden weapon and kicked him in the face. 10 seconds. I disarmed Nakhayan of all his weapons and lifted him by the scruff of his neck. You're saying you want to invade the Imperial Palace with these skills? I'm prepared to die. Even if you're prepared to die, you can't get past the Shadow Guards. You might stand a chance against the weakest among them, but if 2 or more join forces against you, you're as good as dead. Let's go back. You're not skilled enough yet. He bit his lips hard, blood dripping down. How long do I have to train? While we train, are those Shadow Guards just sleeping? Do the ones guarding the Emperor not get stronger? Are they all fools? Nakhayan shouted with veins bulging in his eyes seemingly flowing with flames. They will keep getting stronger too. Then when? When can we take our revenge? Master is right. I am such a person. It's true I like Kawa and dislike Manho. But, even if it means throwing away my entire life, I must take revenge. I looked at the child with pity. Though he appeared to be exuding energy on the outside, his intent was a dark blue hue. It was the intent of sorrow, deep and profound. He was crying without tears. What do you expect us to do? Shuffling sounds were heard around us. I frowned. How did you get here? The overseer opened the formation for us. He said to come and help Hyan. That damn overseer. I looked around annoyed. Manho, Heiwum, Kawa, Changya Yolo He. About 500 of my disciples were surrounding me. Do you intend to hold me back so Nakhayan can escape? Yes. And not just Nakhayan. A few others will go too. Grinding my teeth, I glared at my disciples. Didn't I say it was suicide? You are all too weak. Nakhayan spoke well. We're not the only ones getting stronger. The Shadow Guards will surely continue to train and get stronger as well. So you want to go despite all this? We can't just sit back and do nothing. Fine. I spoke with a murderous intent. They'll make my position clear. I cannot send any of you, because all of you will have suffered injuries in training, needing a few days to recuperate. Even if it means making you rest forcibly, I cannot let. I drew my sword. Any of you die. Everyone wants to die for their cause. Swoosh. My sword sliced through the air. The next moment, confusion appeared in my disciples' eyes. Record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. There's a difference between those who have and haven't learned this martial art, like the difference between an adult and a child. Can 500 kindergartners beat an adult? With my combat experience, swordsmanship, and poison, I was confident I could tie down a large number of peak experts. Now, I even began using the martial art of record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Everyone, fight as if you are facing a mid to late stage chi refiner. I unleashed a roar in all directions with Lion's Roar, then moved stealthily, cutting off their perception. As my mastery deepened, I discovered more intense. The completion rate of the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts kept rising. Now, unless one was at the level of 3 flowers gather at the summit, they stood no chance against me. Puk. I spread paralysis poison on my hidden weapons, refined intent with record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, and scattered it in all directions. With one move, dozens of disciples fell. Don't panic. Everyone tighten up. Manho tried to take control, but I knocked him unconscious with the hilt of my sword. Chalk. After spreading poison dust to blur their sight and breath, I knocked out my disciples one by one. It took about 3 minutes to knock out all 500 disciples. I appeared before Nakhayan, who watched the battle with a shocked expression. Did you see what I just did? I didn't see. That's your level, all of your levels. You can't even perceive it. With your skills, you can't match 3 flowers experts. Understand. Get up and call the servants from the estate. We need to move these guys. He briefly wore an angry expression, then closed his eyes. Understood. After a while, I moved my disciples back to the training ground with the servants. In fact, they were not weak at all. It was just that the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, a divine record created by the genius named Kim Young-hoon to combat cultivators, was ridiculously powerful. With their level, if only about 20 gathered, they could have infiltrated the imperial palace safely, assassinated the emperor, and returned unharmed. But the cultivator clan would never allow such large-scale movement. It was a stupid reason, saying that it gave the Mockley clan an excuse to attack the Jin clan. So, the Jin clan sent one, maybe 2 or 3 assassins a day, not caring how many died. Those Jin clan bastards. They don't value human life. Perhaps they see the lives of the assassins as tools in their political struggles with the Mockley clan. Just tools. To Mockley we are livestock. To Jin we are tools. Watching my disciples, who had forcibly entered the pinnacle realm by accepting resentful spirits, I smiled bitterly. I thought they were better than the Mockley clan anyway. But it's just a difference in degree and scale. Aren't the Jin clan the same? After a while, as my disciples woke up, I looked around and said, I know your abilities well. Many of you must be dissatisfied with the current situation. But with those skills, you absolutely cannot stand against the shadow guards. I stood up and continued. But you must be unsatisfied, thinking with your logic. Doesn't the Emperor's guards get stronger as you do? Yes, that's correct. However, whoosh, I vanished like a phantom in front of them, then reappeared. As you just saw, my martial arts exist on a different level than those of ordinary Three Flowers masters. If you can master this martial art, I will allow your assassination. Of course, record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, with 3 flowers as the minimum entry requirement, would not be easy. Especially for those who had forcibly raised their realm with resentful spirits, it would be even harder than for ordinary people. However, I lied to them, giving them hope. To keep them alive with an unattainable hope. The condition to learn this martial art is to defeat me. All 500 of you can attack, ambush, poison me at night, attack me while I'm asleep, or take hostages. Whatever it takes, if even one of you defeats me, I will teach all of you this martial art, whether they defeat me or not. If they don't reach 3 flowers, they can never enter the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. But I made a promise with an unachievable delusion. If you show the possibility of overcoming me, I will teach you martial arts of a different dimension. At those words, the intents of many disciples stirred. Anger, excitement, surprise, joy, anticipation. I see it. I could see several more hues that I couldn't before, amidst the changes in emotions. That's why there are few recluses among the masters of 3 flowers. There are almost no hidden masters of 3 flowers gather at the summit in the hermit world. Most are in the councils of major factions, involved in their affairs. I used to wonder why there are no recluses practicing in isolation, but observing the fluctuating intents and emotions is the most helpful way for masters of 3 flowers. So they continuously observe intents in important positions of major factions. After making that promise to my disciples, a day passed. While using the toilet, a sword flew out from the dung heap and stabbed at me. Bold for the first day. In a flash, I threw a hidden weapon under the dung to deflect the sword, then released paralytic poison under the toilet. After finishing my business, I reached under the toilet. Squish. Despite the unpleasant sensation, I ignored it and pulled out the paralyzed disciple. Fool, what would you have done if you died in the feces? I dragged the paralyzed disciple to a stream, pressed his acupoints to slowly release the paralysis. Attacking from dung doesn't work against a real master. You should focus more on the sword. After giving advice to the disciple, Wool Yuck, who attacked me from the dung, and advice on controlling the flow of intent, I headed to the training ground. Ting. Upon arriving at the training ground, 2 disciples skilled in hidden weapons, Changya and Huan Haiong, threw their weapons at me. Swoosh. At the same time, thin threads hidden in the sand of the training ground revealed themselves, trying to bind me. Jump. I leaped into the air, dodging the hidden weapons and threads, and drew my sword. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Mountain and valley transformation. Boom. My sword energy tore through the ground. The figures of disciples who were hiding underground to ambush me were revealed, along with a few of their traps. Is this the end for the morning? Attack. However, Manho led disciples wielding swords and formed an encirclement. Their intents filled the formation, attacking me. So dense there was no space to dodge. I smiled and looked around. Is this your sword formation? A good formation that completely grinds anyone trapped inside. If the opponent was not me, it would be excellent. Mountain and valley transformation. Boom. I once again sent sword energy to the ground, disrupting the formation. The formation's shape was disturbed. However, under Manho's command, the disciples quickly reformed the formation. But it was not enough. In the gap you took to reform the formation, you all died 3 times. Shush. Mountain, severing swordsmanship. Mountain echoes, valley responds. My wave-like sword energy sliced the front of my disciples' chests. Get your mind straight. Would you do the same in real combat? Severing mountain swordsmanship. Flowing ridge. Deep mountain. I penetrated through the gaps in their formation with flowing ridge, then made a path with deep mountain. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Joy of mountains and peaks. Simultaneously scattering fine sword energy in all directions, I induced a chaotic fight. Within that chaos, I observed the trajectory of the sword formation. If I break 3 places, it'll collapse. The flow was clear. Mixing and severing vein saber method, I unleashed sword energy and force. About 15 minutes later, eventually, the sword formation led by Manho collapsed, and the disciples were gasping for breath. When forming a sword formation, too many of you are distracted. Being in a group gives you a false sense of security. The larger the group, the more you should concentrate on your position. Even when forming a sword formation, think of it as a life or death duel. After giving some advice on the sword formation and the intents and distractions of some disciples, I left the formation. Clank, clank, clank. This time, disciples skilled in long-range weapons like long swords, spears, and moon blades surrounded me. A spear formation after the sword formation? Intending to drain my energy. But I laughed heartily, holding my sword. Let's see you try. I hadn't even properly used poison or record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts yet. They were already struggling against me at this level. Could they even drain my stamina? I raised my sword and smiled at my disciples. If you can't even touch my clothes today, you'll train naked from now on. As I joked, numerous spear attacks rushed at me. I adopted a defensive stance and charged at my disciples. A month passed. Spreading poison on the path I walk, not bad at all. I chewed an antidote, looking at Kwa who brandished a dagger at me. The poison's making my fingertips tremble and my breathing quick. You might have a chance. Come at me. Whoosh. Kwa's dagger sharply stabbed at me. At the same time, she reached out with her intent to match mine. If her opponent had been a typical peak master, it would have been worth trying. But you're struggling to fight an intent battle at your level. A master who just reached 3 flowers and can only see purple might not know, but I can see dozens of colors. The flow of intent read is incomparable to other peak masters. To even have an intent battle with me, one must at least reach 3 flowers. Ting, ting, ting. I deflected all of Kwa's daggers, extending dozens of intent. Each represents the optimal movement I can make. From that movement, endless intent branch further. Kwa seemed to try to shake off my intent momentum with her own. Whoosh. My sword aimed at her chin, piercing through her intent. Good concentration and clean practice. But you lack experience. Have practiced battles with others that are close to real combat. Thank you. She pretended to salute me, then controlled a thin thread with her fingertips and threw it at me. Shush. I extended a hidden weapon with my fingertips and cut the thread. Good. Keep progressing. I praised Kwa. Months passed. It's been about half a year since I promised to teach record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Only half a year, but my disciples have made significant progress. They focused on forming fighting formations, researching ways to overpower me, and delving into surprise and ambush tactics. At the same time, to confront me, they had to continuously and tirelessly train in martial arts. Thanks to that, the side effects of reaching the pinnacle realm inappropriately seemed to gradually decrease. Until now, to be honest, they were only sharing the same vision as a real peak master, but they all had flaws. But now, I could see those flaws gradually disappearing. When my disciples reached the pinnacle realm by maximizing their talents using resentful spirits, I was unimpressed. However, watching them refine their movements and the flaws disappearing over time, I started to feel moved. It wasn't just the disciples who had grown. I, too, have made even more progress in my understanding of intent. After realizing 6 types of intent, I began to notice hundreds, thousands of shades of intent derived from those 6. This rapid growth was a speed I had never felt before. Fast, no? Is this slow? I observed the countless human hues and delved into them, lost in thought. Some hues I could immediately understand their meaning, but others, I had no clue what to name. However, even realizing these countless hues, there was one thing I still found hard to grasp. The last of the 7 emotions. The emotion of desire. Desire. I couldn't see the color of desire no matter how hard I looked. No matter how much I observed, I couldn't even get a trace of desire. What is desire? I dodged my disciples' attacks, lost in thought. What is desire? Kim Young-hoon, whom I met after a long time, said while sipping tea. He said he had almost gathered all the like-minded warriors while traveling around Yanghwa recently. Desire is a longing hidden deep within. There's no human without desire. That's why everyone expresses their desires in their own unique ways as they live. In a way, Desire is the driving force of human life. What is your greatest longing? Keep pondering over it, and you'll understand the color of desire. Could you tell me the color of desire? Then, at least I could try to see that color. However, Kim Young-hoon shook his head. You know this, right? The colors seen by masters of 3 flowers are similar, but each is slightly different. Both you and I might see the intent of joy as gold, but the emotion we each see has a slight color difference. Mine is pure gold, and yours is golden. Right like that. Everyone sees a slight difference in the shades of intent, especially the intent of desire. It varies greatly because everyone has different longings. So only you know what color your desire is. Thus, you have no choice but to observe your own longing. Is that so? I pondered over Kim Young-hoon's advice. What I want the most. What is it? Even after receiving his hint, I kept pondering and observing for days. On that day too, I was fighting within my disciples' fighting formation. Clang, clang, clang. Reading countless intents, finding their weaknesses, dodging and deflecting the incessant poison darts and hidden weapons. I was lost in thought. My longing. What I want in this life. Firstly, to reach 5 energies converging to the origin. But to reach 5 energies, I first need to know what desire is. But knowing desire itself became my desire. This is troublesome. Let's broaden the criteria a bit. Why do I want to reach 5 energies? To become a cultivator. Why do I want to become a cultivator? To enter the ascension gate as a cultivator and return to my original world, to see if I can eliminate my regression ability. Why do I want to get rid of my regression ability? Because of my regression ability, all the lives I've built up will eventually be negated. Therefore, I need to find the origin of my regression ability to eventually escape from it. Oh, I see. Somehow, I felt like I roughly understood what my desire was. I hate that my life is negated. That means I want to live. Yes, I desire life. I don't need appetite, sexual desire, or the desire to sleep. I don't need any desire or urge in this world. I just want to live. I hope that all the lives I've built will not vanish vainly in the reverse flow of time. Even though I haven't achieved everything I want, I hope my precious life, which records my achievements, is not negated by time regression. Therefore, my desire can only be life itself. Ha 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 ha. While countering my disciples' moves, I might not have discovered the intent of desire, but I realized how selfish I am. Everyone. Manho's great sword narrowly misses in front of my eyes. Keiwa's dagger stabs at my back. Jumping to dodge, Chanya from midair attacks me with a hidden weapon. I am definitely. I wish you live. A selfish person who imposes his desire on others. I desire life, so I impose life on those who wish to die. But still, because you are alive, these children, even though they desire death, are undoubtedly alive. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As I knock down Chanya attacking from the air, Manho and Keiwa attack from both sides, and Yeolo thrusts a weapon from below. Nakhayan swings a metal piece to pressure my upper body, and other children scatter poison. Excellent. I couldn't escape even seeing the flow of intent. I won't be able to escape without using the ultimate technique of record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Whoosh. Immediately after, the children's weapons stopped right in front of me. My condition was my subjugation, not my murder. In the first place, subjugation is much harder. And who would teach them if I died? Excellent. You all have grown a lot in such a short time. I know you're hiding a trump card. You could easily escape if you use it. Manho, knowing that I was holding back, said with a slightly dark face. That's right. With just this trump card, I could subdue all of you. You haven't even drawn out the 22nd move of Severing Mountain Swordsmanship, let alone the 23rd and 24th moves. But now, I have no more flaws to point out. Teaching or sparring with you won't bring any more improvement. From now on, it's up to your enlightenment. You can't completely subdue me. If I reveal my trump card, it's too high a technique for you to comprehend. However, you all did all you could to push me this far. Dang. Suddenly, a loud bell rang from the direction of the cultivator's quarters. All mortals within the domain listen. All martial artists in the pinnacle realm gather at Yunryong. There's an important announcement. Along with the bell, the voice of the chief administrator of this Jin clan territory echoed throughout the domain. I had a rough idea of what it was about. Though you succeeded in cornering me, you didn't subdue me. So, I'll teach you a formation derived from the martial art, not the martial art itself as originally promised. The name of the formation is Transcending Cultivation Formation. In the cycle where I formed the Heavenly Demon Army, Young-hoon Hyung derived a fighting formation from the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. A formation executed by late first-rate masters, powerful enough to capture a mid to late chi refining cultivator. Learn this formation, and I hope you choose to live. Confusion appeared in my disciples' eyes at my tone. Eventually, I succeeded in not sending any of them for assassination. However, I could no longer resist the pressure of the cultivator clan. At least, I managed to buy time using Kim Young-hoon and change the direction of the pressure. Now, my disciples would undertake the mission of attacking the Mokli clan's territory, not assassinating the emperor. A task both harder and easier than the emperor's assassination. I will use everything I can to increase my disciples' chances of survival. I'll make sure you live. I realized my desire was life, but I still couldn't see the intent of desire. Maybe I didn't understand what life was. Still, even though I don't know life, I want my disciples to live. Because they are alive. That was enough. Soon, I joined my disciples in Yunryong, listening to the operation plans of Kim Young-hoon and other chi-building cultivators. In 2 months, we were planning to start attacking the Mokli clan's territory. Chapter 30, Life 5. 3 months had passed. I, dressed in black martial attire, looked around at my disciples, each tending to their weapons. Is everyone ready? Yes. Their response was resoundingly loud. 3 months ago, at the meeting where the plan to invade the Mokli clan's territory was explained, everyone was shocked, almost losing their minds at the news that they wouldn't be killing the emperor. It was almost a serious incident when they were subsequently informed that, while not the emperor, they would attack another territory of the Mokli clan. They all have complex feelings. They couldn't kill the emperor they had been dreaming of, but instead, they could kill the other monsters. However, despite having the killing they wished for right before them, each of my disciples seemed to have complex feelings. It wasn't simple hatred, anger, or anticipation. It was a strange mix of emotions. I can't read what color it is. And it wasn't desire either. Looking at it, I realized something. Maybe, even if I can discern thousands of colors, I may never completely understand all the hues of human emotion. How many emotions do humans have? Who can define them? Emotions are indescribable. That's why you can't categorize them or know all their colors. Then, what exactly is the realm of 5 energies converging to the origin? The realm of 5 energies didn't seem to be just about knowing all colors. It was impossible unless one was a god. But what I saw when Kim Young-hoon reached the realm of 5 energies was, from within Kim Young-hoon, infinite hues of colors came out, filling his realm. His consciousness was made up of infinite colors. Then why do I now feel that it's impossible to fully comprehend human emotions? I don't know. It's strange. Infinity is never achievable. If it were possible, Kim Young-hoon wouldn't have been surpassed by cultivators, but would have overwhelmingly dominated them, whether at the core formation or even higher. But what I saw then was infinity. I don't understand. It was something I couldn't know just by thinking about it now. Even with my talent, I wouldn't easily understand even if Kim Young-hoon explained it to me. Then, instead of focusing on what I can't understand, I should focus on what I can do now. After confirming my disciples were ready, I distributed the special poison and antidote I had concocted to each of them. The disciples took the poison I had mixed and put it in their sleeves or pockets. After I checked their preparations, I shouted, "Today, we go to kill cultivators." A determined expression swirled on everyone's face. However, I did not want them to be merely determined. Don't think recklessly about dying. Don't plan to die alongside the cultivators. At my words, my disciples' determined expressions began to show slight irritation. Talking about living or whatnot would only irritate them further. There was no real reason I could give for why they truly needed to live. Then, I need to create a goal for them to live. You may be somewhat dissatisfied that we're not attacking the emperor, but just the lowly cultivators of the Mokli clan. But, I promise you this. If you successfully destroy all the territories and strongholds of the Mokli clan, then I will trust your abilities. I promise I will join you to attack the Imperial Palace. I will help you claim the head of Emperor Mokli Yong. But, until then, do not die easily. Desperately survive, and make sure the reason for your training isn't in vain. Absolutely. I shouted with a roar filled with determination. Survive. In my justified command for survival, my disciples' eyes no longer glowed with just determination, but with resolute will and anger towards Mokli Yong. Yes. Hearing their response, I led the way with over 500 disciples quietly following me, using their stealth techniques. We left the Jin clan's territory and headed for the northwestern hills of Chombiik City. There lies a secret base of the Mokli clan, far more than in my past life. I looked at the martial arts masters Kim Young-hoon had gathered and the 500 peak masters who followed me, thinking, different from my previous life, none of my disciples were forcibly elevated to half-baked peak masters. Each had gone through bone-crushing training, equipping themselves with abilities worthy of their forcibly attained realm. There won't be any proper cultivators in this territory. Most cultivator clans don't place important personnel in territories scattered across the country. Just the lowest level chi refining cultivators of the clan, from 1st to 5th star, were sent, along with 1 or 2 higher-ranked chi building cultivators to manage them. The majority of the clan's strength was deeply hidden in the main house of the cultivator clan. The territory we were about to enter was merely a primary refinery where low-tier cultivators performed dirty elixir refining, and significant personnel were not heavily deployed. In my past life, I didn't have any disciples. In this life, hundreds of formidable masters have been added. Probably, it would be possible to simply push through without much struggle. However, unable to shake off my worries, I spoke to my disciples in a low voice. Everyone, when we enter the territory of the Mockley clan, you will witness many horrific scenes. But, no matter what you see, maintain your composure. Our priority is not to get carried away in anger, but to coldly kill more cultivators and save any civilians that might still be alive. My disciples nodded slightly at my words. Shortly after, a late-stage chi-building cultivator of the Jin clan formed a hand seal in front of a hill. Open. The scenery around us distorted, and a passage to the Mockley clan's territory opened up. We followed the cultivators into the territory of the Mockley clan, and I recognized the familiar landscape. A large village engulfed in a barrier, and the Mockley clan cultivators, hastily alerting others of our intrusion. It's just the beginning. Woo-woo. Once again, Kim Young-hoon was leading the vanguard. He, who had reached a new realm with the secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, demonstrated the same divine technique as in the past. Gang Chi Compression Sphere. Kugu. I couldn't fully see the intricacies of Gang Chi Compression Sphere in my past life, as I was only at the mid-peak. Now, having reached 3 flowers gather at the summit, I could see the numerous intents and intricacies that were previously hidden. To be precise, I was only allowed to see. I still have no clue how it's done. I understood that countless intents were swirling within that sphere. But how exactly one detaches their intents and swirls them inside remains a mystery to me. Nevertheless, I watched, my eyes nearly popping out. Finally, Kwang. Kim Young-hoon's powerful strike hit the barrier of the Mockley clan. The barrier burst open, creating a large hole. The cultivators, Kim Young-hoon, and about a dozen masters of 3 flowers entered through the hole first. Let's go. I too led my disciples through the hole. Attackers, take them down. These vermin-like mortals, how dare they trespass here? Pack. A cultivator who was mouthing off was swiftly struck in the head by Kawa and died. Kawa moved quickly with a dagger, confronting the cultivators. Kwang. Manho swung his great sword, smashing the cultivators' defensive techniques, and Nakhayan wrapped the legs of a jiangshi controlled by a cultivator with an iron whip and flung it away. Unlike my past life, the cultivator's village began burning overwhelmingly fast. Kwang. Just as I defeated a 3rd-star chi refining cultivator, the house of a cultivator collapsed, and blood and corpses flowed out. Chanya, who mainly used hidden weapons, was the one who destroyed the house. She lifted the unconscious cultivator by the neck, then thrust him back down to the ground. Kwang. As she struck down with internal energy, the cultivator died, almost shattered in half, and she stood amidst the corpses, silently shedding tears. Sister. She had said her family didn't die in front of her eyes, but were taken somewhere unknown. It was obvious what she must be thinking, having seen the cultivators make elixir. Her eyes seemed to be shedding red tears, with burst blood vessels. Regain your senses. This is a battlefield. Tearing apart the Mockley clan cultivators can wait until after we've won the battle. I sent a telepathic message to her, who was on the verge of going berserk in rage. After receiving my telepathy, she glanced at me briefly, then moved to capture other cultivators. I'm sorry, that was all I could do for her. You mortals. How dare you, a mere nobody. I looked at the 3rd-star chi refining cultivator rushing towards me, yelling, and drew my sword. A mere nobody, huh? Swish. My sword cut through the cultivator's defensive spell and aimed at his neck. The defense seemed to activate, but when I concentrated deeply on the sword energy for a moment, a bright sword light burst out. Crack, swish. My sword gang shattered the cultivator's defense like glass and cut off his neck. You're also just a 3rd-star chi refining cultivator. For early to mid-stage 3 flowers, 1st and 2nd-star chi refining cultivators are manageable. Starting from 3 flowers, I could see the intricacies of intent more clearly, eliminating all vulnerabilities and using sword gang. An experienced master of 3 flowers has the power to confront 3rd to 6th-star chi refining cultivators. Moreover, due to my long life, I was advancing through the realm of 3 flowers much faster than other masters. Additionally, with the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, I had stepped out of the typical relationship between cultivators and martial artists. Now, only chi refining cultivators of 5th to 8th star were a match for me. Is this coming to an end? I passed by the corpses of cultivators, looking around the burning territory of the Mockley clan. Is everyone safe? The duels between chi-building cultivators in the sky had also ended, thanks to Kim Young-hoon's efforts. We had won. Everyone survived. I spoke briefly to my disciples. Well done. And thank you for surviving. Now, Let's search the houses of the cultivators, gather the bodies of the unfairly sacrificed civilians, and bury them. At my words, my disciples silently followed me, digging the ground and burying the bodies. We, led by Kim Young-hoon, briefly recited prayers in front of numerous graves. May you find peace there. After offering a brief prayer for their souls, I looked at my disciples. Their minds had become rough after seeing the brutal massacre of civilians by the cultivators. How are you all feeling? No one answered, but I could read their emotions and guess their feelings. Or perhaps I couldn't. The intents emitted by my disciples were so tangled and chaotic that they were unrecognizable. However, one thing was clear. The red, rage-filled intent. There was no disciple who wasn't emitting the intent of rage. Everyone feels the same. But remember, our goal is not to kill cultivators. It should be to end your revenge. What's the difference? A disciple named Giziak-gura asked. I looked into his eyes and into everyone else's, then said, You'll understand later. Let's move. Follow me. What's the difference? I chuckled bitterly to myself. You don't know yet. You probably don't want to know. There's nothing harder than telling someone who doesn't want to know. They'll have to learn slowly. We ran again towards another territory of the Mockley clan. 6 months passed. We burned down 13 territories of the Mockley clan and collected the bodies of 156,000 mortals. As time passed, the eyes of my disciples increasingly filled with bloody intentions. Their anger seemed to grow each time they saw the extreme actions of the cultivators. These mortal scum. These martial arts riffraff. Quong, quong, quong. A third-star chi refining cultivator struggled against my disciples' combined attack, scattering his spells wildly. But in a flash, Quakwang, Hia, who quickly rushed towards the cultivator with a small scythe, swung towards the cultivator's neck. Kang. The internal energy in the scythe penetrated the cultivator's defense. The cultivator clenched his teeth, trying to concentrate on his defense. Yet, weakened from the combined attack, the light of his defense spell gradually faded. I can't die like this. How did I get to this point? Then, shook. Eventually, the cultivator's defense broke under the combined attack of Nakhayan and Hia, and his head was severed. His face remained incredulous, unable to accept his fate even in death. Soon, the Mockley clan will start to prepare as well. I organized the battlefield, checking on my disciples. Initially, there were many first and second star chi refining cultivators, but now there are more third and fourth star ones waiting in their territories. The Mockley clan is also preparing. This wasn't good news. Even the weakest chi refining cultivators were not to be compared with ordinary martial artists. Just a 1-star difference makes a huge impact. The number and range of spells they could use increased, as did the scope of their consciousness and the power of their attacks. If these guys keep showing up, it could be dangerous. Of course, cultivators above 7-star chi refining were at least countered by masters of 3 flowers, and those above 9-star were dealt with by Kim Young-hoon. But as we continued to attack the territories of the Mockley clan, I felt their defenses were getting increasingly stronger. Even this is done by exploiting the Jin clan's intelligence network, targeting the most vulnerable territories. If we keep attacking the Mockley clan's territories, we will eventually face severe consequences. What's even more frightening is that it's not yet a full-scale war between the Mockley and Jin. According to the Jin clan, this level of conflict is considered an underground battle. Can it really be called an underground battle when dozens of territories are burnt down and dozens of cultivators killed? I had thought so, but apparently, to the high-ranking cultivators of the cultivator clans, the lives of the lowest-tier chi refining cultivators are not significantly different from those of mortals. Moreover, the personnel sent with us to attack the Mockley clan's territories are considered mere bugs in the eyes of the upper ranks of the clan. The masters in the pinnacle realm are all chi refining cultivator level in strength, but they are still martial artists and mortals. Although the chi-building cultivators of the Jin clan fight alongside us. It's always Kim Young-hoon's role to strike the decisive blow after they weaken the chi-building cultivators of the Mockley clan. So far, it's been treated as a fight under the control of the 2 clans, preventing a full-scale war. The lower territories of the Mockley clan that were killed by such mortals were considered too weak to be of concern by the upper ranks of the clan. But if a real full-scale war breaks out, after cutting down all the cultivators of the Mockley clan, I saw my disciples gathering and burying the bodies of civilians who had been sacrificed. It was only after the battle and the burial of civilians that the blood-red intent in my disciples' eyes seemed to fade. Those below 3 flowers will be too busy fleeing. And my disciples, if lucky, about 10 to 30 of them might survive. If not, they could all be annihilated. After the raid on the Mockley clan's territory was over, I, along with my disciples, gathered the bodies to create graves and recited prayers under Kim Young-hoon's lead. Womb. As Kim Young-hoon recited prayers, a faint light seemed to wash away the resentment and strange energy surrounding the graves. Over the past few months, Kim Young-hoon had started learning cultivation. It wasn't because his martial arts had hit a wall or he was in despair. Rather, he learned it to recite prayers for the dead and to learn the arts of comforting spirits. From Kim Young-hoon's low-level cultivation, I could visibly see the remaining spirits being led to heaven. Originally, spirits not visible to the human eye. Only those deeply accomplished in 3 flowers gather at the summit or who could read the flow of intent could barely see souls. But the souls hit by the heavenly arts briefly floated around the graves as orbs of light before scattering into the sky. We watched this and prayed for their souls. I looked at this scene for a while, then spoke to my disciples. We have destroyed several territories of the Mokli clan so far. We have cut down countless cultivators of the Mokli clan and buried the bodies of their victims, leading their souls to heaven. I cautiously looked around at my disciples and asked, "Isn't this enough now?" At my words, there was a twitch in their expressions. "What do you mean by enough?" Chanya asked me in a harsh voice. "There are still plenty of these filthy monsters. No matter how many we kill, the resentment doesn't subside, and every time we go to the next territory, civilians' bodies pour out." "What do you mean by enough, Master?" I looked at her with pity and asked, "Do you think the anger in your heart is entirely your own?" "What do you mean? All of you? Do you really think it's normal for a human to remember such clear anger from years ago?" I looked at my disciples. I looked at their intents. Their intents were not solely their own. Among their intents, foreign and murky ones seeped through. The resentment of relatives and family members. The Jin clan used the resentful spirits of my disciples' relatives, wrongfully killed by the Mokli clan, to forcibly awaken their talents. Their lifespan had already been shortened, but if the spirits are led to heaven now, they can still live for as long as they can. I suppose what our master is talking about are the family members who are with us. Manho stepped forward and said, "That's right. No matter how many Mokli clan cultivators we slay, our boiling rage does not subside, because surely it includes the anger of our families as well. It's not just our own anger, but that is why." Manho's expression was resolute. "We cannot just end our vengeance because our own anger is appeased. It can only be resolved by resolving the grudges of our families, along with them. Because it's not just my grudge. We must resolve everyone's grudges." I briefly turned my head towards the graves we had tended to. Did everyone just see that light? We did. That light just now was the souls of the victims. However, although the victims died in pain, at the moment of their passing, they scattered with a burst of light. Looking again at Manho and my other disciples, and seeing the murky intents hiding in their minds, I spoke. "I won't tell you to stop right now, but at least, having taken some measure of revenge, don't you think it's time to let the dead rest? The dead now need to be released to their rightful places, don't you think?" At my words, a moment of hesitation appeared on Manho's face. But he gritted his teeth and said, "You don't understand our pain. You don't know how comforting it is for us to be able to avenge our dead families like this. The more you hold on to your family, the worse the outcome will be for both your family and yourselves. Your lifespan will continue to decrease, and your family will have to live as resentful spirits, unable to go where they belong. You're just trying to keep us alive, Master." In his eyes, an indescribable hue emerged. "We don't care if we die. Even if we spend the rest of our lives cutting down the Mokli clan and die when our lifespan runs out, it's worth it if we can go to the afterlife properly with our families." For a moment, my disciples and I looked at each other. "All right, that's enough." I sighed softly. "Let's talk again later." And so, we avoided further discussion for that day. Months passed, and we continued to raid the Mokli clan's territories. Many of the Mokli clan cultivators were slaughtered, and the prowess of those we faced steadily increased. The realm of the cultivators we faced had risen from Chi refining 1 to 3 to 2 to 5. Damn, they're strong. I gritted my teeth as I fought a Chi refining 7-star cultivator. Sharp eyes. Unlike most mortals, you seem to have awakened senses. Mortals too can open their consciousness with enough training, right? I wonder if the Jianshi I'll make from your corpse will be as strong as a cultivator's corpse. I released Sword Gang at the cultivator controlling dozens of Jianshi. There are too many of these guys. The disciples are in danger. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Mountain and valley transformation. Boom. My Sword Gang dug into the terrain, disrupting the formation of the Jianshi. Severing vein saber method. Mountain wind. Whiz. My Sword Gang, as fast as a beam of light, shot through the Jianshi towards the cultivator. Clang. To scratch my defense spell, impressive. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Chi mountain. Heart heaven. Whoosh. Opening my meridians wide, I greatly enhanced my Sword Gang and slashed diagonally. Boom. A massive Sword Gang tore through the cracked defense spell and split the cultivator's body. What? How can a mere mortal? Crash. After completely severing the cultivator's upper body, I looked around. Damn it. There were too many strong enemies. Please, let them be alive. My sword cut through flames, heading towards a 4th-star Qi refining cultivator attacking my disciples. The cultivator was casting wind spells, and my disciples were struggling to block them. I cut through the wind pattern and approached him with record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, swinging my sword. Flash! My sword gang surged, and the cultivator's head rolled on the ground. However, I saw several bleeding disciples as the wind cleared. You kids? Gritting my teeth, I approached them. They had stopped the bleeding with basic medical techniques I had taught them, but I knew. They're dying. There was no way to save them. Aside from the heavy blood loss, some had completely twisted meridians or ruptured organs. You fool. I confirmed the last disciple's face with clenched teeth. It was Nakhayan, who had once recklessly left the training ground. I told you to stop with the revenge. Heh, I'm satisfied. Finally, I can be with my family. My disciple's life force was draining away. His body was getting colder. The people left here, they aren't my family. Gritting my teeth. My throat was choked. Their eyes, even in death, were peaceful. The dead disciples looked at me with distant expressions. Thank you for everything, Master. Because of you, we made it this far. My vision blurred somewhat, but any more emotional change would be dangerous. This was a battlefield. I gritted my teeth hard to prevent my vision from blurring further and whispered slowly to my disciples. Do so. At my words, my disciples' eyes widened. Will you be all right? Not all of your grudges have been resolved. I looked at my disciples, nodded once, and stood up. I pressed their sleep points. They'll fall asleep soon. I must go now. I need to save the others as much as I can. Leaving behind 7 dying disciples, I grabbed my sword. Nakhayan, Huia, Changju, Jang Samso, Go-O-O, Siaman Rim, Jimlon. Everyone, rest well. Biting my lips, I charged to slay the cultivators and save my disciples. This battle was intense, and 34 of my disciples perished. Nakhayan, Huia, Changju, Jang Samso, Go-O-O, Siaman Rim, Jimlon, Gijin, Gusam, Aelme, Sojin, Gijinte, Bagite Hyojinsu, Sanghayan, Sanho, Jiamjok, Dae, Childuk, Palo, Palyuk Brothers, Yir Yok, Jiam Sam, Jian Hun, Dae Sik, Gilsu, Hansu, Mongjin, Juhan, Jujiam, Jiamo, Jangchiel, Honghua, Mansuk. I called out the names of my disciples, collected their bodies, and made graves for them. I am sorry, everyone. After burying my disciples, I looked at the remaining ones. Listen, all of you. The resistance of the Mokli clan cultivators is getting fiercer. Even if you form a combined force, it'll be hard to counter the late Qi refining cultivators that are now abundant. So, as your martial arts master, I command. My vision blurred. As a master, I should have shown a better side, but I kept showing an embarrassing scene. From the next raid, you won't join. From now on, you'll be refining your martial arts back at the training ground. What are you saying? Don't you know how we feel? We want. My disciples resisted with bloodshot eyes, but I spoke sharply. Sorry, but this is not a request or a suggestion. It's an order from your master. Swoosh. I drew my sword from its sheath. If you want to defy me, try to defeat me. Until you defeat me, you can't continue your revenge. I couldn't stand it anymore. Hundreds of intents shot at me, but I observed thousands, even millions of intents, calculating the optimal path that my disciples couldn't even imagine. From now on, you will not die? No, you cannot die.